And now, Audio Theater Central.
Hello, welcome to Audio Theater Central. This is the show that explores family-friendly audio drama through news, reviews, and interviews. I'm your host, JD Sutter, and this is episode 200. Wow. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Oh my goodness. This is a milestone episode, so we are breaking the mold this time, doing something completely different, and I hope you will enjoy this celebration and allow me just an episode to sort of reflect back a little bit and just commemorate this milestone. Now, the show has been going since 2010, so just a few months away, and we'll hit our 14 years. And yes, there are lots of other podcasts which have surpassed 200 episodes, but with this one being a monthly show, I think that's still a great accomplishment. And yes, I am patting myself on the back a little bit because there aren't a whole lot of shows that have been running for this long. And so I am very thankful for this journey that I've been able to go on and for all the people who have come along since the very beginning. And so I am excited about what we've got coming up in this episode. But first, I just want to say real quickly, thank you to Blake for nudging me to do a special episode. I was not really planning to because of, well, for several different reasons. Because it wasn't coinciding with any particular special date, in terms of the run of the show, and just with everything that I've got going on in my personal life right now, I just wasn't really going to consider it. And then Blake sent a couple of emails and really nudged me to do that, so I decided, all right, let's do it. We're going to go all in. We're going to, as I said a moment ago, break the mold and do something completely different. So in this episode, we're going to have some feedback from several folks in the ATC community, both audio drama fans and some industry folks. So thank you to everybody who sent in a voice message. Also, an industry guest spectacular is what I'm calling it. We've got some short conversations with actors, writers, directors, sound designers, composers. Oh my goodness. Some amazing, amazing folks agreed to join us for this special episode. And so I can't wait to get to that. It's going to be awesome sharing those conversations with you. Also, the ATC contributor team is backstage right now, and they will be joining the show a little bit later. So that's going to be great. And to kick things off, we're going to run through some fun stats and facts about the show before we jump into the conversations with everybody. So, thank you for joining me for this special episode, and if it's your first time, be sure to come back next time or pop in on an episode in the archive for our regular format, but this time, we're doing something totally different.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing.
That was just me talking. I do that a lot. Where's my speech?
How long are you going to bore us with this?
That's what I want to talk about.
So I thought it would just be kind of fun to take a look at some interesting stats for this particular podcast. I figure there are some of you in this audience who are numbers nerds and they like all this kind of stuff like I do, so we'll take just a couple of minutes to run through some numbers here that I thought were interesting. So first off, the top 10 countries that are listening to Audio Theater Central. So there have been nearly 50 countries in just the last year, and the top 10 are, well, at number 10, we have a tie, Mexico and Spain. And then at number 9, we have a three-way tie with South Africa, France, and India. Number 8 is Romania. Number 7 is Germany. Number 6 is the UK. Number 5 is Singapore. Number 4, Japan. Number 3, Australia. And number 2, Canada. And of course, number 1 is the United States, with a little over 80%. Now, it doesn't surprise me that Canada and Australia and the UK are listening, and maybe even South Africa, because there's a lot of English speakers there, but some of these countries really surprise me. And the fact that they're so high on the list, Japan and Singapore at number 4 and 5, really, really surprised me. But I think it's interesting nonetheless. So If you are listening in any of these other countries besides the US, Canada, or UK, I'd love to hear from you. So hit us up, audiotheatercentral.com/contact. Now, of course, this is episode 200, so these figures don't include this particular episode, but of the previously released episodes of Audio Theater Central, the total duration of content is 211 hours, 16 minutes, and 22 seconds. Wow. Wow, that is a lot of content. That equals out to 9 days, 17 hours, 23 minutes, and 59 seconds. Or a week and 2 days worth of content. And that does not even count the 22 hours, 7 minutes, and 37 seconds of content that is in Audio Theater Central Backstage. So that means over the nearly decade and a half of this show's running, we have created over 230 hours of content, all about clean, family-friendly audio drama. I think that's pretty cool. That tells me that there is some amazing stuff happening in this space and that it's worth talking about. Now, I'm not so arrogant as to think that every single thing that comes out of my mouth on this show is amazing content, but what I'm saying is that there is some awesome stuff happening in this space, and we are trying to do our best, myself and the rest of the team, to bring that information to you and support the professionals in this industry in any way that we can as well. That's the goal of this show. And speaking of the listeners, where people are listening, these are the top 5 places where people are listening to Audio Theater Central. Number 5 on the app called Pocket Casts. That is the app that I personally use myself. It runs on iPhone and Android, and there's also a browser version of Pocket Casts that allows you to listen to podcasts as well. So a great tool. Number 4 is iTunes on a computer. Now, this is not on Apple Mobile. This is specifically for iTunes, the program on a computer. Number 3 is Spotify with over 10%. And that's growing. That has been growing, especially over the last few years. Number 2 at 12% is right on the Audio Theater Central website, which I think is really cool because that tells me that people are going to the posts for the episodes, because the show notes take a long time for me sometimes to get all the great information and links and photos and pertinent information. So that lets me know that people are reading them. And number 1 is the Apple Podcasts app at over 50%. So still the number 1 place where people are listening, and it has been like that for years. Also, in terms of the audience, now this is specifically on Spotify because we don't have these stats for all of the platforms, but because Spotify does ask you to share this information when you create an account, we have that. And that is the audience demographics. And our audience this is amazing to me. Now, apparently, not everybody answers this question, so it's not a total 100%, but 48% male, 48% female. That is great. We're reaching everybody, and I think that's so cool. And 13% of the audience is 17 and under, and then 18 to 22 is nearly 15%. 23 to 27. Now, I don't know why they break it down like this, but that's how they do it. 23 to 27 is about 14%. 28 to 34, about 10%. And 35 to 44, 20%. 45 to 59, 17%. And 60 and up, about 8%. So this is interesting information. We're covering all the age groups with this community, and I think that's amazing because, as we've noted in the past, a lot of the content in the family-friendly audio drama space is for children, and it's just been in the last few years where there's really been an effort to make content for older listeners and older fans of audio drama. So to see these demographics reflected in this ATC community is really, really cool. So I'm really excited about that. Just a couple of other quick numbers that I thought were interesting. We have done almost 110 interviews over the years with 82 different industry folks, and that does not count all of the fan interviews at events like the Get in the Show finales and SonicCon, where we interviewed lots of audio drama fans in those episodes as well. But 82 different industry folks and over 100 interviews over the years. Most appearances. This I did not know. I figured I knew who it was until I started going through the numbers, and it's actually Katie Lee. She has appeared on the show 5 different times. Nathan Hubler and Phil Lawler are tied at 4, and Mark Hamby, Paul McCusker, and John Fornoff are tied at 3 appearances on the show. And most of these numbers are going to be shifting up again for today because nearly all of them are appearing in this episode too. So that's coming up very shortly. But the last thing I wanted to mention was co-hosts. I have had 12 different co-hosts over the years. That includes Roy and Andrew, who were my regular co-hosts for several years, over a decade, and also the current round of contributors. So this has just been an amazing ride. Yes, I've been behind the scenes doing a lot of the stuff to get things going, but I could not have done it without these folks, and I just wanted to mention them. And of course, all of the industry folks who have been willing to give their time and appear on the show. It's just been amazing. And speaking of industry folks, let's jump into the next segment where we're going to chat with some of those great industry professionals right now.
Just say your name and the role you're playing in this production, please.
Excuse me. The local news station would like to talk to you.
Oh, and here's our company playwright.
I'm here to ask you a couple of questions.
Well, I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate this milestone than to reach out to a bunch of the folks who make the amazing audio drama content that we all love around here. And I wanted to speak with a nice cross-section of the industry, professionals in all different disciplines, composers, writers, directors, sound designers, and actors. And not just that, I wanted to speak with some of the stalwart, longtime members of this community, as well as some of the newer entrants. And so that's what we're going to do today. Now, because I wanted to have a lot of folks involved, we did have to try to keep these conversations as short as possible. So I decided I'm going to ask everybody the same questions and just get some varied perspectives on the same topics across the board. And because we have this cross-section of disciplines in the space, we might get some really interesting answers. Now, of course, there is going to be some overlap because audio drama is a medium that appeals to a lot of different people for some of the same reasons. And so there will be some similarities in their answers, but I still think it was a great time to chat with all of these folks and share their feelings on this medium that we all love so much with you. So let's get going. We're going to start off with sound designer Rob Jorgensen. You've heard his work on Adventures in Odyssey, Focus on the Family Radio Theater, Lamplighter Theater, The Extraordinary Adventures of G.A. Henty, and in more recent years on the Luther podcast. So the question that I'm asking everybody today, Rob, is, it's sort of a two-parter, and you can tackle it however you want, but what is it about the medium of audio drama that you enjoy so much, and or, how has working in this industry changed or impacted your life?
I found that I loved it because it just fell to me naturally. It made sense to me the moment I put my hand to it, and I started by making radio commercials, dramatic radio commercials when I was working in radio stations. And it was the part of the job that I loved the most. Then when I got to do it as, a professional audio dramatist, it just elevated. Obviously, when you get to work with great writers and great actors, everything elevates. And I think the one part of it that I love the most is I'm a blue sky thinker. I love starting from absolutely nothing and creating something. And audio drama is such a unique medium in that I was able to create a full scene and do all of the work myself. Where in movies you're so tight in your one little area that you're a part of. But in the audio drama world, I was thinking of it, creating it, making all the sound effects, mixing it, mastering it, bringing it completely to fruition, and my dream and vision of what that was supposed to be actually was. So that I love that, to think of what a scene should be like and then to dig into the depths of it and create it.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. So now the next part of this little conversation here is we're just going to have fun. We got a little lightning round. I'm calling it this or that. I'm going to throw out a couple of things, and you just first one that jumps out at you that you prefer between these two, you're going to just tell me. And if you want to, you can say why, as long as we keep it super short. So you ready?
All right. Yes.
All right. Mountains or the beach?
Oh, the beach. Absolutely. I live in Florida.
Ah, that makes sense.
There it is.
Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Chicken. It's funnier.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
All right, and our final one, Mexican food or Italian food?
Mexican all day long.
All right. What's your favorite dish?
So I don't remember the name of it. My wife and I discovered it on our last date night. Some guy in another table was eating this thing. We had never seen it before, and we asked the waitress, "What is that?" She told us it's a big clay pot, and it was full of chorizo and shrimp and chicken and steak with and it just was boiled all together with their special sauce. It was literally the single best Mexican food I've ever had in my life. You can only probably do it once a year, but it was so good. We're going back.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. I'm going to have to add that to my list.
Absolutely. It's good. I wish I remembered the name of it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Darby Kern is a writer, director, and actor. He has written for shows such as Left Behind, Kids Corner, Abide, Lamplighter Theater, The Extraordinary Adventures of G.A. Hinty, and of course, he is the creator of the Jake Muller Adventures. So the question I'm asking everybody, Darby, is I wanted to have a question that, could apply to a lot of different professionals, regardless of what they work on in the space. And feel free to tackle this however you like. It's sort of a two-parter. The question is, what is it about this medium of audio drama that you love? What keeps you, working in this space and enjoying it? And or how has working in audio drama changed or impacted your life?
Oh, man. How much time do you have?
3 minutes.
Okay. I can't do it. I think what the reason I stay in it is because I'm really not suited to do anything else. I've done a variety of jobs in my life, but none of them as well as audio drama. And I'm still learning a lot there too. So I love the medium. Since I was a kid, my dad played the old radio shows. You and I've talked about this. The Shadow was a big one, The Lone Ranger. And then as a teenager, I started listening to the BBC show, The Goon Show, which had Peter Sellers on it. It was just a wacky, surrealist kind of fun show, but it really shows you what the radio medium is capable of. So, and that's fun. I mean, because, I just think, I don't know how spoilery I want to get with things that we just recorded in Jake Muller, but I mean, there are some huge action sequences that unless we had a James Bond budget, we could never film this. So it's great to get in the studio and record a story that we could never afford to put on film. And the other thing that is something I love about this medium is there's no happier place for me than to be in a room with creative people and to be able to call them my friends.
Yeah.
And just really, really just explore things. And I get to do that every once in a while. And I'd rather do that than go to Walt Disney World or Universal Studios or any of those places. I'd rather do that than see a good movie. And, it's work. I mean, we just did get finished with 6 pretty intense days of recording, and I'm still a wet noodle mentally and physically, but you know what? Every second of it is worth it. And I get to hang out with people like Micah Touche, Jonathan Cook, this time, Todd Bastide, Dugan Shabani, who plays Jake. Fantastic. There's just so many good people. And if I start listening to the rest of them, I'll forget them all. And somebody will be mad at me. But every one of them is just a dream. That's the thing that makes me want to get back into the studio with them soon.
Yeah. It's a fantastic community.
It's nothing better.
Yeah. All right. So now we got the serious question out of the way. Let's have a little fun. I have a little lightning round for you.
Okay. All right.
I'm calling it this or that. I'm just going to give you a couple things, and you just whichever one is your preference, just shout it out. And if you want to give a couple of word explanation, you can, but no obligation. You ready?
Okay. I hope so.
All right. Mountains or beach?
Mountains, but I haven't been there recently.
Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Oh, rubber ducky. That's the bathtub, man. I love it. That's all Douglas Adams too.
Oh yeah. Mexican food or Italian food?
Oh, come on. Yeah, how am I supposed to choose? It depends on the night, but most times Mexican.
All right. A favorite dish? I think I know the answer here.
Tacos.
Yeah.
Is that
I
what
knew you were going to say that.
Birria tacos, preferably. Yeah. I like lasagna a lot too. So.
Oh, hey,
Okay.
There's no wrong answers here, so great choices.
Oh, no, there's not. The only wrong answer is to not eat them.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Darby.
Oh, JD, thank you. And we are so happy that you are a part of this community. I'm sure everyone will say how much they appreciate you. And if they don't, it's because they forgot. We really, really appreciate what you do, and don't cut this part out because we hold you in very high regard.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it. It's like you said, the people. It's one of my favorite things about this space. I mean, I love this medium of storytelling, but the people are just amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? You and I have some very, very excellent friends, and I don't deserve them. You probably do, but I don't.
Oh, no.
And I'm just so excited to create for them. When I think about what I'm working on or what we're doing, I don't think about some faceless mass of people. I think about our friends,
Mm-hmm.
and love them all. Love them all.
Absolutely.
Love you, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Nathan Hubler. That is a name that any Adventures in Odyssey fan knows, and knows well, most likely. He's a writer, director, producer for Adventures in Odyssey, and has been for many, many years. Of course, the creative behind the official Adventures in Odyssey podcast, and a lot of things that happen for that show behind the scenes. And of course, back in the day, he created one of the biggest AIO fan sites, the AIO HQ. So Nathan, the question that I'm asking everybody today is, what is it about this medium of audio drama that really resonates with you? Why do you love working in this medium? And or how has working in this medium impacted your life?
Sure. Well, let me start with the first one. So what I love about audio drama is from the production side and from the listener side, it's so imagination driven. So anything that you can think of, pretty much anything can be created in audio drama. People talk about movies these days and how exciting they've gotten with visual effects and all that, and sets and costumes. And it's true. It's pretty amazing what they're able to create in film. But still, none of that holds a candle to the power of the imagination. And nothing can match what God has given us in our brains to create these pictures. And so anything that you can imagine, you can have as part of an audio drama. And that goes with the listeners as well, is that unlike a film where you just say, okay, here is what this character looks like. Here's what this place looks like. And it might be pretty amazing, but there's only one look then. That's the established look for that character or place. Whereas with audio drama, everybody's part of this and they're creating their own picture of the character. So everybody has their own picture of the town of Odyssey, John Avery Whitaker of Wits End. And so it's almost like a choose your own adventure kind of thing with audio drama, is that everybody approaches it differently.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it in quite those terms before, but yeah, that's absolutely right.
As far as how audio drama has changed my life, I feel like everybody who has worked on a program would say, working on something for a long time, there's no way that it can't change your life. I grew up listening to Odyssey and had a great impact on my spiritual life, still does. And I've been doing Odyssey as my job or career for 20 plus years now and hope to do it for at least another 20 more, Lord willing. So it's certainly been one of the foundational pieces of who I am today.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's beautiful. And, the problem with these quick, short interviews is I can't follow up on them. And I want to just dive deeply into these answers that people are giving, but we can't. We're trying to get as many people involved as possible. So
Sure.
I love your answer. But we're going to move on to the lightning round. I'm calling it this or that. I got a couple of things I'm going to toss out at you, and you just, whatever one your preference is between these, you just shout it out. And if you want to add a couple of clarifying words, that's totally fine too. But are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Mountains or beach?
Oh, mountains.
All right. A rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Ooh, rubber ducky.
And Mexican food or Italian food?
Italian.
All right. A favorite dish?
Cannelloni.
Ooh, all right. All right. Hey, most people go with the savory stuff, but yeah, gotta mix in some sweet stuff every once in a while too, right?
Well, are you thinking of cannolis or cannelloni?
Oh, yes, you're right. Yeah, I was thinking of cannoli. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
cannelloni is
scratch
like the they look similar, but cannelloni is usually filled with cream and cheese and chicken maybe, and the cannelloni is like the sweet stuff. So like a sweet cookie almost, similar shape.
Probably have the same root word, thinking, considering Italian.
Probably, yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, JD, and thanks for all you're doing for the medium of audio drama.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love this space so much. Todd Bustede is an amazing sound designer who has been working in the industry for many years, and Todd has worked on shows like Adventures in Odyssey, Lamplighter Theater, Left Behind, the Augustine Institute Radio Theater, and more recently with Rivercross, and did some amazing work with them. Well, Todd, the question that I've been asking everybody today is, what is it about this medium of audio drama that you love, that keeps you working in it year after year, and or how has working in audio drama impacted your life?
Well, there's a historical anchoring, JD, in that I grew up as a kid listening to all these great dramas generated by Moody Radio, Sailor Sam, Sugar Creek Gang, and even back to that. And then, of course, Stories of Great Christians. And so I grew up on that. But the thing that really turns my crank is that it ignites the imagination, because when you hear a voice of the bad guy, you can attach the figure of that guy down the street who would yell at you if you happen to ride your bike across his lawn. And so that became the bad guy, and it just became so much more personal. And so it's a medium that engages the imagination, the theater of the mind. We like to say we're doing everything you'd hear in a movie except the pictures, because, a movie tells you exactly what the bad guy looks like. And if you don't know anybody like that, there's a subtle sense of detachment. Whereas if you hear a voice, you can project that onto somebody who, might be a scary part of your past. So, yeah. And in terms of how this has been, yeah, it's just a wonderful journey for me. I've had so many opportunities to play around with storytelling. And that's really, that's really the essence of it. It's play. It's a playful medium. You're storytelling. You're putting together people who have similar passions, different gifts, and the end product is this storytelling. So whether you're doing post, or whether you're writing, whether you're just one voice in a cast of 40, whether you're directing, whatever it is you're doing, you're part of this collaborative storytelling, and it's wonderfully playful in its essence.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that aspect of it too. Just the collaborative, the process. It's just amazing, and hearing that final mix as it comes together, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's bigger than any one person, because there is no audio drama that is the product of one person. Now, you can have a drama about a person. We've done the story of C.S. Lewis during the war years, so that's about C.S. Lewis, but it's all this collaborative. We have great composers coming in. We have a fantastic cast of actors, the writers. It's this wonderful collaboration.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, the downside of these short, quick conversations is that we can't go any further into this, but we're going to have you back on to do that at some point. But let's move on to the lightning round. I'm calling it this or that. I'm going to toss out a couple of things, and you just tell me which is your preference in these in these pairs of things. How's that sound?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Mountains or beach?
Mountains.
All right. Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Definitely rubber ducky.
Okay. How about Mexican food or Italian food?
Oh, see, now you're going to get me in trouble because there's a gentleman sitting in the control room who espouses the former, though I kind of lean towards the latter. So I'm going to say Swiss cheese. See how I went neutral there?
Okay, well, hey, that works. There's no wrong answers here, so.
I'm glad to hear that.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. I really appreciate it.
Oh, love it, JD. You sent me an email and said, we're just going to talk for 10 minutes. And I thought, how do you talk for 10 minutes about something so fun as audio drama? But apparently you're just going to cut it off and we'll have to live to chat another day.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, JD.
Thank you. Alicia Hansen is a newer entrant into the audio drama space in just the last handful of years, but she's already making some amazing content and working on all sorts of different projects. She is a writer, director, producer, actress for Eternal Future Productions, the company behind Pirateers, Robin Hood, Rising to Honor, and the upcoming show Venture. And, of course, as an actress, she has participated in lots of other shows as well. Well, thank you, Alicia, for coming on this special episode. The question that I'm asking everybody today is, what is it about working in this medium of audio drama that you really enjoy? What keeps you pumped to keep working in this space? And or how has working in this space impacted your life?
So the first thing that comes to mind when I think about like why I love audio drama so much is it's the people. And it was the first thing I noticed as I was kind of getting my feet wet and gaining more experience in this, just how kind everybody is and how supportive and how, people just want to help each other out and want to see each other succeed. And I saw so much evidence of that even in the preliminary audio dramas I was creating for my resume, basically. And, it started out as fun and I realized I wanted to do more of it because a big reason is just the people. And my other reason is and my most important reason is for God, because I found my purpose in creating audio drama for him and, finding ways to glorify him through that. And I've always loved to tell stories as a kid. And audio drama is such a beautiful way to do that because you're not just immersing listeners in a story, you're giving them this opportunity to visualize things themselves and to imagine things themselves. And it's such a beautiful partnership. And I think I've heard that before, actually, that somebody has said that, audio drama is very much like a partnership with you and the listeners. And so, yeah, it's really comes down to the people and just the beautiful people I have met and even become very dear friends with. I think of Jonathan Cook and Craig Hart and Bethany Baldwin, just to name a few. And that doesn't even include the entire amazing ADA group. And that wouldn't have been a possibility without you, JD, because you've been incredible to just your support and the resources you've provided to Jonathan and I. And we would never have met you had we not explored audio drama. So too many good things to count.
Oh, you're very kind. Yeah. And that's sort of a theme that I've been hearing talking with people is you use the word partnership. I've heard collaboration. I've heard other different terms used for this same sort of concept of working with the listener to create the story. So yeah, I love that. So I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. So, are you ready to have a little bit of fun? We'll jump into the lightning round. I'm calling it this
Yes.
or that. I'm going to toss out a couple of things and you just let me know what's your favorite between these, and feel free to, explain it a little bit if you want to, but no obligation. First off, mountains or beach?
Beach.
Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
I'd say rubber chicken just because I don't see those very often.
And lastly, Mexican food or Italian food?
Italian.
All right. Any particular dish that's your favorite?
I know it seems a little boring, but I love spaghetti and meatballs. It's just comforting. And when you add garlic bread to that, it's just divine.
It's perfection. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to chat with me today for this special episode. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, thank you so much, JD, and for everything that you do for us. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Craig Hart is a longtime voice talent and novelist who has entered into the audio drama industry in just the last few years, and he is now a writer, director, actor, and producer in this industry, working for his company LRT Media, the company behind productions like The Titanic Waif, Sherlock Holmes, Heritage, Chapel and Squeak, and Robin Hood Rising to Honor. Well, Craig, thank you so much for joining us on this special episode. And the question that I've been asking everybody today, and it's sort of a two-parter, and you can tackle it however you wish. What is it that you love about working in this medium of audio drama? What keeps you coming back to it? And or how has working in audio drama impacted your life?
I'll take the second part first. So it's impacted my life immensely. I've been listening to audio drama since I was a little kid, and that formed my imagination. And so anything, I really credit audio drama in a big way with all of the things that I have been doing, whether that's writing books, producing audio dramas, the various things that I've done over the years. A lot of that, usually it's creative and imaginative in nature, because that's what I love doing. And that is a big part has been because of that early exposure to audio drama. And that ties in with my answer to the first part of that question, which is, what I love about it. And that is kind of the same answer, that it allows a person to delve into their imagination in ways that I do not believe is possible with, say, TV or movies. Books are similar, but when you've got something like television and movies that presents everything you need to know on a silver platter, you don't need to do the work yourself. And again, I think that's what is tempting to a lot of people about TV and movies, because you can zone out. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that if you're relaxing, whatnot. But there's something about like reading books, or in this case, listening to audio dramas, that forces you to engage in the product in order to get out from the product what is necessary to enjoy the product. And in doing that way, it's sort of the symbiotic relationship where you're supporting audio drama, but you're also doing yourself a great favor and building your imagination, your ability to think, your ability to enter into other worlds. And ultimately, because of that, increases your empathy for the world around you and those who inhabit it.
Yeah. I mean, you're a participant in the storytelling process. It's a collaborative medium. And
absolutely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love that. Well, I mean, I've been telling people the downside of these is that I don't get to follow up and carry on the conversation here, which I would love to go deeper on these things, but we want to get as many people as possible participating in this episode. So we're going to move on to the lightning round. I'm calling it this or that. I'm going to shout out a couple of different things. You tell me off the top of the head which one you prefer. You ready?
I think so.
We'll take it easy on you. All right. First off, mountains or beach?
Beach.
Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Chicken.
And lastly, Mexican food or Italian food?
Mexican food.
All right. Any particular dish?
I love like the enchilada, where you get multiples like in the same dish, so you can have your cheese and your beef and your whatever you carnitas, hopefully. So.
A red or green sauce?
Oh, I guess red sauce. Yeah, these are tough questions. The first one was easier. We're talking about food now. I can't handle it. No.
Yeah, I know. The good thing is there's no wrong answers. So this was really fun. Thank you so much, Craig. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Phil Lawler is another name in this industry that anybody who's been around the space for any length of time has heard. He is the co-creator of Adventures in Odyssey, and of course, a writer and director for that show. He's the creator of Iliad House. He was also a writer for Kids Corner, as well as, in recent years, writing for Lamplighter Theater. Well, Phil, the question that I've been asking everybody today is, what is it about the medium of audio drama that you love working in, and it just keeps you coming back year after year and on different shows, and or how has working in this medium impacted or changed your life?
Well, the answer to the first question is, I think it's the best way to tell stories. all of the communication media are wonderful in terms of they have their individual strengths and some weaknesses, and some of the weaknesses are really, really weak. But I think audio drama especially is the best way. It gets the best of all worlds. And the reason I say that is, and a lot of people say, no, wait a minute, how come you don't have any visuals? Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly the reason. You have to rely on story. You have to rely on great storytelling and writing and the performances of the actors and sound effects and music, and those are all that you have. And so it provides the strongest elements of movies, of film and television and video and YouTube video, whatever you want to call it, whatever visual medium you decide to go into. It provides those strengths, because those strengths are important in those areas as well. But it also provides the strengths of books, of written things that are written out on paper. And then for those who say, yeah, but how does it provide the strengths of movies without the visuals? Well, you have the visuals. You provide the visuals. It's all in your head. It's active listening. You have to participate in the story. You have to participate in the story. So many of us, I can tell you right now, everybody has gone through a period where they looked at, where they're watching a movie, or they're watching a television series, or they're watching some stuff on YouTube or on their computers or whatever, and it's all background. You don't have to participate in it. It's there. It's just there, and you can be thinking about something else, doing something else, doom scrolling, whatever it is that you want to, that you want to be doing. But you can't really do that with audio drama. You have to participate in it. You have to be there. You either have, this is Yoda time. It's do or do not. There is no try. There is no just kind of letting it go on in the background. When I see people write into us and say, "Oh, we just have Odyssey on in the background all the time," I'm going, "No, you don't." You really don't. I mean, either you are listening actively to it, or you're not doing it at all. And it really is just noise. I mean, it's possible for it to just be noise in the background. But that's why I love the medium so much. I think it's such a great storytelling medium. It's the strongest storytelling medium that there is, in my opinion. I've worked in all of the other ones. I've written books. I've written television shows. I've worked on films. I've done different kinds of video stuff. And while I've enjoyed myself immensely doing all those things, I always want to come back to audio drama. Always, always, always. And it's a specialty kind of writing. You have to know how to write for it. You have to have a real strong grasp of story and how that works. And performance is the same way. You have to, all of it has to come through the voice. All of it has to come through the voice. And it's a specialty type of acting too. I mean, it really is. If you don't know, you have to do all of that without overperforming. Everything has to come through the voice without you chewing the scenery or chewing the microphone or whatever it is. Yep. You've got to be able to know when to get close on that microphone and when to pull back from that microphone, and when to get the dynamics are enormously important in audio drama. And part of that is the director and part of that is the performer. But when you get the two, I mean, I go to, my example for me would be Gregory Javara and his performance in Christmas Bells. I keep coming back to that because he was so good in that. And I just gave him this direction of saying, okay, when you're doing the poems, I want you to enter into an ethereal world. This is like talking to the next, it's a transcendent experience, transcendent experience. And I want it to feel that way, as opposed to when you're playing Longfellow just as Longfellow, and then as opposed to when you're being Pastor Wilson, and he just nailed it. Yeah, and it was, I was talking to Jonathan Crow yesterday. He came by, he saw me here when I live in Arizona. He was passing through and we had some coffee. And I said, we've been so privileged to experience so many magical, and that's the best word for it, just magical moments in the studio where we're creating this stuff out of nothing. It's air, and yet whole worlds are being created. It's the teeniest, tiniest, most infinitesimal taste of what it must have been like for God at creation. Just out of nothing, you're creating something that's this world that people really love and really think is out there and really want to be a part of themselves. So that's the reason I love audio drama more than I think any other kinds of storytelling. I know I do more than any other kind of storytelling. I like writing books. That has been a good experience too, a really wonderful experience. All of it has been really, really good. But audio drama just has everything else beat by a mile in terms of storytelling, narrative storytelling. As far as what it's done to my life, I think you can tell from the passion that I have for it what it's done what it's done to my life. You know, I always liked listening to audio dramas when I was a kid. I really loved listening to the old Jack Benny shows and You Bet Your Life and radio shows from the golden age of radio. I loved listening to those and doing stuff in front of a live audience, listening to those kinds of shows. And then the dramas themselves, there used to be a show on called the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, and I would listen to that when I was a teenager. And I was working at Dairy Queen, and we would listen to that while we were cleaning up. It was right when closing time happened, and we were cleaning up, and so we'd turn on the radio, and there would be CBS Radio Mystery Theater, and they were producing original stuff at that point, and they had really great. They had people who had great voices on that show. So Fred Gwynne, who played Herman Munster on The Munsters, was one of the actors that they would have. And he had such a great voice. I listened to his voice. I'm like, wow, listen to that tone, that quality. It's so cool. And so when I got the opportunity with Focus on the Family to create Adventures in Odyssey and to work with really good top-notch actors, Hal Smith and Walker Evanston and Will Ryan, Katie Lee, Parley Bear, Dave Madden, all of these people who were so good. For me, it was just a masterclass. I sat there. Yeah, I'm supposed to be directing you, but I'm just listening to you because I want to know, how do you guys do that? How do you do that? How do you make that quality come across in the microphone? Earl Bowen, for goodness sakes, Earl's voice, Corey Burton's voice. These guys had such remarkable voices. And man, that was truly life-changing too. It was just like, wow. And again, it's the magic of the combination of their performances, their vocal quality, saying words that you've written or that we've written and we've all worked on, and then making those words sound natural and even better than what you did when you wrote them. And those things are all really just phenomenally transforming. I mean, they do change everything. They change your life, and you walk around now, and you I'm sure you know this, producing your own dramas, doing your own programs like this. You walk around and you're hearing things that you never heard before because your ears are so attuned to. Oh, you hear that? You hear that noise? Isn't that cool? And everybody else around you is, what noise? What are you talking about? Oh, watch. Wait. Here it comes. There it goes. Hey, did you hear it? Did you hear that thing? Isn't that cool? I got to record that noise because I bet you we could use that somewhere, you know? And you're so attuned to nuance of language when you're talking to people and you realize they just said something. Oh, they just said that there was a huge amount of subtext in that little delivery that they just did. Huge amount of subtext. They're telling me one thing, but they really mean something else. You recognize that it becomes part of who you are. And so that's really wonderful. And then I think for me also, part of the change of how it changed my life, transformed everything, is being able to produce biblical stories, being able to produce stories from Scripture, and getting into this works on so many different levels. It works on the writing level because you really have to dig deep. You have to do a lot of research to make sure that you're being true to the story and you're getting across what the story says. You know, that you have to get the right characters, you have to get the right actors for the parts, and then in the directing of it, you really have to know how the nuance of performance works and what you really want these characters to say, because these are scriptural characters. You want to make them human, but by the same time, everything they say is symbolic of something else that's going on. There's always so much more depth to every single line in Scripture than we realize. And so while we don't have time to do all of that in a half an hour show, you want to give an inkling of it. You want to have them understand that this, you know, them, and then convey that to the audience to understand the deeper meaning of Scripture. And that, of course, is always a transformative experience. So yeah, that would be my answer. I'm sure I'm going way off here, but those are all transforming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's so much that I would love to dive into. But we're just going to have you come back on the show, and we'll go a little more deeply into all of these other things.
Sure.
But hey, you ready for the lightning round?
All right, here we go.
All right, I'm going to throw a couple of things at you. You just fire off what your preference is between these two things. All right, mountains or beach?
Mountains.
How about rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Rubber chicken.
And lastly, Mexican food or Italian food?
Oh boy, this is not fair because I love Italian food but can't eat it. It's all cream sauces and cheeses and stuff, and I can't really do that. And I really love Mexican food, but I've had it like 3 times this week, so I'm really off Mexican food. I had it just last night, and I had it 2 nights before that, and so I'm like kind of off Mexican food right now. But but if I had to make a choice, if I was put up, I think probably Italian. There's some Italian I can eat, and so I eat that stuff. That would be great.
And living in the Southwest, you get a lot of Mexican food and great Mexican food down here.
Yeah. Definitely. We were going to go. This is so funny that you should say that because just last night we were going to my wife and my grandson. Their birthdays are close together, so we were going to go out. We had a whole family. We were going to go out to an Italian restaurant, but somebody didn't make reservations.
Oh, no.
And this is the only Italian restaurant even close to us. It's like the only one around here. And so we all went down there and they said, well, it's going to be like an hour to an hour and a half. We had 9 people and it's like going to be an hour and a half. 4 of them were kids. It's like, we can't wait an hour. So guess where we went? We went to a Mexican place. So.
Well, I mean, you didn't really lose, I guess.
No. It was all fine. It was very good. We really loved the Mexican place too, but it was just so funny that you picked those 2 things. That was hilarious.
Well, Phil, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
You bet, buddy. Anytime. Well, we'll come back. We'll have an even more in-depth conversation about audio drama and what it means and how it works.
Yes, sir. Dave Arnold is another mainstay in this industry who has been working tirelessly for many years now as the executive producer of Adventures in Odyssey. He is a writer, director, producer, and sound designer. And in addition to his work on Adventures in Odyssey, he also has worked on Focus on the Family Radio Theater and the standalone production, The Shepherd's Prayer. Well, Dave, I mean, this is kind of crazy to have this be your first appearance on the Audio Theater Central podcast for such a short chat here, but thank you for doing it. And the question that I'm asking everybody in this episode is sort of a 2-parter, and feel free to tackle it however you wish. But just kind of like to know your opinions on what is it about this medium of audio drama that just keeps you engaged? Why do you keep coming back to it year after year? And or how has working in this space impacted your life personally?
Yeah. The reason I enjoy working on audio drama, I've done it for 37 years, so I guess I really do enjoy it. But first of all, it's provided me with so many different creative opportunities through the years. I started as a sound designer. I moved into writing and directing. I've done some acting. I've produced the show. I've executive produced the show. It's also led to the opportunity to write some books for the series and other opportunities I can't even talk about yet because they're on the cusp of things. But so I've had so many different opportunities creatively, and I love that I've been given those opportunities, plus just to meet so many amazing creative people. It's the voice talent in the industry is filled with genuinely nice people, people you enjoy working with no ego, no inflated ego. They just love working and they love acting. I'd say the second reason I enjoy it so much, JD, is because even though a story can be told in any number of ways, from a book to a film or through photos even, or through the oral expression of just telling a story or drama, is that every one of those has different, unique, peculiar benefits. Like a book, for example, will take you deeper into the character's mind, and maybe they can describe the setting a bit more. But a book takes a greater investment of time, and it doesn't supply you with quite as much information as audio does in terms of how to understand what a sound would be in that sort of environment. Film just gives you everything. All it requires is time and attention. It supplies all of the information to you. But audio dramas involve the listener as a co-creator in the process. And I love that. I love the fact that we give you enough information, and if we tell it well, if we do our sound design well, if we tell the story well, it conjures, well, not conjures is a bad word, but it solicits you, in a creative fashion to create the images in your mind, to see those pictures. And you supply 10 different people can have 10 different images. And I really like that because now they are participating and they're engaged in it. And it just gives them an opportunity to understand creativity. And quite honestly, I think that's why so many of the people that have listened to Odyssey through the years have gone on into creative environments themselves because they have tasted of the beauty of the creative expression.
I had not thought about that before, but that makes absolute sense. And I know I'm supposed to keep this short, but I just want to I want to keep going. Odyssey has had such an impact on the majority of the other shows in this space. I mean, there's been some connection in some way to Adventures in Odyssey, either just as a listener or, as many of the people who have worked on Odyssey have gone on to other projects. But yeah, that's a huge part of it. So yeah, I love that.
And I love that because it just expands ministry, right? So, I mean, some people might think that we're threatened by other people doing audio dramas. Are you kidding me? I love it. It just expands the kingdom. It's more people doing God's work and filling in information that can be transformative. And I don't know if you had heard this, but I was really humbled when I heard that Dallas Jenkins, who has done The Chosen, he said that Odyssey inspired him to move into the creative field even more than his dad, who is Jerry Jenkins, writing the books. I thought, wow, it's not us. It's the fact that God will use whoever he's going to use and whatever he's going to use to accomplish his mission and inspire other people to carry that mission into the different regions of the world. And that's what he started with his disciples. They took the messages out because they were persecuted, went out into the world in different regions, and that was how the gospel was spread. And it's the same thing creatively.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. There's so much we could talk about, but we've got to move on. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Do it. Let's do it.
All right,
Bring
so I'm going to throw a couple of items at you, and you just let me know which one you prefer. I'm calling this or that. Let's do it. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Okay. Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Oh, rubber chicken. Are you kidding?
And lastly, Mexican food or Italian food?
Mexican down all the time.
All right. Any particular favorite dish?
My wife and I go out for Mexican quite often, and we share. I've got, if you ever come to Colorado Springs, I've got the perfect restaurant for you because it's become our favorite. But we share a big fajita plate, and it's just the smoked beans.
Well,
fabulous.
Now you're making me hungry. Oh, well, thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate you taking the time today to chat with me about this.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All righty.
Well, there are more great industry conversations to come, but let's take a moment to hear from you here in the ATC community.
So, what do you think of the show?
Please leave your message after the tone.
Hi, Audio Theater Central.
Hey guys, this is Austin Peachy.
Hello, JD, Roy, and Andrew. My name is Victoria.
Now, yesterday I received a letter from a big fan.
No time to chat. I've got to email this.
Another package for me today.
No, it's actually just your mail.
Well, for the feedback segment of this Milestone episode, I wanted to only feature audio comments this time, just hearing your voice, because I wanted your voice to be a part of this episode rather than just reading comments on a blog post or an email, things like that, which I'm always grateful to get any feedback at all, but I thought it would be special to include your voice as members of the ATC family here in this special episode. So, let's go ahead and jump into this.
Hello, Audio Theater Central. This is Christian Manassian from Radio Theater Wiki and Henty Live Wiki, coming at you from all the way up here in the Paw, Manitoba. I'm also well known for being a huge fan of Philip Glassborough. And I wanted to wish you guys a happy 200th episode and a thanks for all that you have done over the years in making more people aware of amazing family-friendly audio drama. Here's to 200 more. And Philip, if you're listening, thank you for all of the amazing work you have done over the years, and I hope to hear more from you in the future. God bless you.
Hi, Audio Theater Central. This is Caleb Bressler. Hey! Oh, no one wants to hear from you. Hello, Audio Theater Central. You now have the pleasure of hearing a much more amazing actor than the person formerly speaking. I'm extending sincere congratulations on your 200th episode. In fact, I have written a short soliloquy for your enjoyment, which I am going to perform. What are you doing? I'm breaking in to spare the audience. Congratulations again on the 200th episode and goodbye. How dare you? You would deprive the audience of my brilliant... Don't you dare press the stop button, don't you?
Hey, this is David from Vancouver, Canada. Just calling to congratulate ATC on 200 episodes. That is quite the accomplishment. Some of my favorite Audio Theater Central episodes have been your interviews with the Odyssey cast and crew. And I especially loved your Will Ryan and Katie Lee interview. It was a lot of fun, and I actually re-listened to that one recently. And I just want to thank you, JD, for your dedication, for all the work you put into the podcast and the Seneca Awards and just promoting audio drama as a medium. And it was through ATC that I discovered so many audio dramas like Lamplighter and Heirloom Audio. And I just want to thank you for everything you do. And I am so glad that ATC exists. All right, take care.
Hello, Audio Theater Central. This is Caleb Bressler. So I did my fun voicemail, and now here's my serious voicemail. So first of all, congratulations on your 200th episode. And I also wanted to say how much I appreciate Audio Theater Central as a resource. I've made connections with people and heard about shows and gotten involved in things that I would not have otherwise. So thank you very much. I enjoy listening to the show each month when it comes out and look forward to hearing what comes next. So once again, congratulations on your 200th episode, and thanks again.
Hello, Audio Theater Central podcast. This is Jeremy Levy from Colorado. I have been a loyal listener to Audio Theater Central podcast since 2019. I just wanted to send a message congratulating you on your 200th episode. I love the episodes when you talk about adventures in Odyssey and Paws and Tails. Again, congratulations on your 200th episode. Thanks, bye.
Hi, this is Odyssey Fan. Congratulations on 200 episodes. I've been listening since early on, specifically content related to Adventures in Odyssey, and I had the privilege of meeting JD in person in 2012 and being interviewed for episode 25. I've been a sponsor of the ATC Seneca Awards for the past 5 years and recently reconnected with JD again at SonicCon 2023. I think the ATC has helped set the standards for the audio drama industry, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter in family-friendly audio drama. Congratulations again, Audio Theater Central.
Congratulations, Audio Theater Central, for your 200th episode! Woo!
A hearty huzzah on a brilliant milestone. This is Jason Markiewicz, audiobook narrator, actor, voice actor, and director of Markiewicz Audio Works, wishing JD and Audio Theater Central my sincerest congratulations on 200 episodes. The work you do in support of the audio drama industry is appreciated by all of us. And here's to 200 more. Cheers to you.
Hey, everybody at Audio Theater Central. Phil Lawler here. Just wanted to congratulate you on your 200th episode. That's fantastic. What a great milestone. And here's to 200 more. God bless you all, and thank you for doing the work that you do. Thank you, JD. Bye.
Happy 200th episode, ATC and JD. This is such an incredible milestone. I know you're so excited, and I just wanted to hop on and say congratulations. We really appreciate everything that ATC does. There's truly nothing like it out there. It's an incredible resource for everyone, for those in the industry, for fans, and even for new listeners who haven't heard of audio drama before. This is a great place to jump in and learn. And I'm so excited to see where you go from here. Here's to 200 more episodes.
Hi, this is Trisha Rose, voice actor, audiobook narrator, and co-host of Audio Drama Insiders. Happy 200th episode, Audio Theater Central. Congratulations in being the go-to podcast that delivers solid, genuine news and reviews of all things family-friendly audio drama. My favorite part of the show is the news segment. I always get excited hearing about all the new projects in the works. I remember somehow stumbling over this podcast a number of years ago when I must have been searching for information on how to get involved in voice acting. And the first episode I listened to was one where JD was hosting live from some Adventures in Odyssey shindig. And I bookmarked it to explore later. The podcast came back to my life at a later time. And since then, I knew that if I wanted to be serious about pursuing voice acting and audio dramas, I needed to become a devoted listener. So, Audio Theater Central has been crucial in my life. I'm so glad to know there is a community of like-minded fans and creators of audio drama that are passionate about telling worthy stories. Audio Theater Central brings so much value to the world. And, JD, you are awesome and very much appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much to every single one of you. I would love to have been able to take the time to respond individually to each and every one of these messages, but that would just take too much time. So I just want to say to all of you collectively, thank you so much for taking the time to send in a message. It really, really means a lot to me. And there were two calls there where they did not leave their name. And the first was Betsy Nicholson, that very short message there about halfway through. And then towards the end, Bethany Baldwin also. But both of them are great actresses in the audio drama space. And I'm very confident that you will be hearing from them a lot more in the coming years. Again, thank you to all of you. Well, let's jump into more conversations with some industry guests.
I have some very important information, and I thought I'd be getting it into the hands of a real reporter.
Sir, could I speak to you a moment?
Oh, well, there's nothing to it. I just ask you the questions, and you answer them in the tape recorder here.
Play the interview.
Aaron Fullen is a composer and actor who has experience in both film and audio. In both of those disciplines, composer and actor. But in terms of audio drama, he has composed music for Adventures in Odyssey, Heirloom Audio, as well as The Brinkman Adventures. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me for this milestone episode. I really appreciate it. And, like I gave you a little bit of a forewarning, have a little bit of a serious question, and then we're going to jump into some fun stuff. But, the question I've been asking everybody, just to get some different perspectives from industry folks, is, what is it about this medium of audio drama that just draws you in? Why do you love working in this space? Or it's sort of a two-parter. How has working in this space impacted your life? So feel free to tackle that however you wish.
Oh, man. First of all, thank you so much for having me on, JD. Congratulations on 200 episodes. That's a phenomenal milestone, and I'm just thrilled for you.
Thank you.
And appreciate all that you have done for the audio drama medium. The first word that comes to mind with a question like that is adaptable. Like, radio drama is such, it doesn't matter how old you are. It draws you in as much as your brain is able to at that age. Hearing stories that I heard when I was 6, now I see them differently through the ears of an adult. And you can't say that for any sort of visual medium. When you see a movie at 6 years old, it's the same movie you watch when you're 34. Audio drama, you create the visuals in your mind. And so it's adaptable to whatever age that is listening to it. And I think that is one of the most powerful things about it. And the fact that nobody's vision of what they're listening to is the same. And I love how unique this medium is. And it's one that I've been passionate about for a long time. Working in it as a composer, creating music, working alongside the likes of John Campbell and Jared T. Pasquale and people who have really established a name for themselves in the audio drama world has been one of the greatest privileges of my life. And when I first got asked to compose an episode of Adventures in Odyssey, that really was, for me, one of those bucket list items. So I just feel so blessed and honored to be part of this community.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's fantastic. I love hearing that. Well, there's so much we could talk about. I'm sure we could talk for hours about it, as a fellow fan and not just a creative in this space. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot we could talk about, but unfortunately we're confined by time. So you ready to jump into this little lightning round? I'm calling it This or That. I'll just throw a couple things at you and you just tell me which one you prefer, all right?
Okay, let's do it.
First off, mountains or beach?
Beach.
Okay. Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Ooh, rubber ducky, hands down.
Okay. And lastly, Mexican food or Italian food?
Mexican.
All right.
I love tacos.
Oh, I mean, who doesn't? I mean, if you don't love a taco, then what is wrong with you?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much again. I really enjoyed this, and we're going to have you back on the show to talk a little bit more in depth about some of the nitty gritty about audio drama. But thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, JD. Thanks for having me on.
Kathy Sarah is a prolific actress in this space, as well as having experience on stage and on screen. She has worked with shows such as Focus on the Family Radio Theater, Lamplighter Theater, The Extraordinary Adventures of G.A. Hinty, Rivercross, Big Finish, BBC Radio, and The Brinkman Adventures. Well, Kathy, first of all, just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this special episode. And the question I've been asking today is, what is it about the medium of audio drama that you enjoy working in? As somebody who has experience on the stage, on screen, and in front of the mic, I'm interested in your perspective. And or how has working in audio drama impacted your life?
Thank you. Well, I won the BBC Carlton Hobbs Radio Drama Prize at Drama School, which gave me a contract working for 6 months on audio drama for the BBC.
Wow.
And I was learning every day from great actors, absolute legends of UK acting profession. And it was absolutely foundational to my career. It opened up hundreds of doors to work that I have absolutely loved. And I think I also love its challenge, distilling all character work, all intentions and emotions into just the voice.
Yeah.
And the variety of roles. I would never have been able to play these parts on stage and screen. These opportunities would never have opened to me. From playing the young, desirable Portia of the Chambers in Rumpole of the Bailey, to another day, a drunken old Cockney mother. From the personification of imagination, which, believe me, really was my role title, to playing all the female characters in an episode of Doctor Who recently.
Wow.
And so I love it for the learning, for the challenge, for the variety, and then I think for me, finally, in summary, for its playfulness.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I really, really wish I had more time to just sit and chat with you. But if you're up for it, we're going to have you come back at some point and have a proper sit-down interview.
I would love that. Absolutely love it.
Well, let's move on to the lightning round here. I'm calling it This or That. I'm going to throw out a couple things at you, and you just respond with whichever one is your preference. And feel free to expound on it a little bit if you want to. but no obligation to. First off, mountains or beach?
Mountains.
All right.
Yes, I love walking. I love walking and getting up high and being able to get that perspective. I'm not good at lying still on a beach, and that's what it conjures up for me. So I just need to be walking and get to a pinnacle and get the view.
Yeah, I like that. How about this one? Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Oh, I think rubber chicken. I have a rubber chicken downstairs, and my husband is really quite mischievous and seems to have kind of delivered this rubber chicken at various points to various ministers and colleagues, and so it's been rather great fun in our lives. So yes, definitely rubber chicken.
I love that. That's awesome. And lastly, how about this? Mexican food or Italian food?
Oh, Italian. Though I feel I'm now not saying the right thing because I've just been to Bolivia, and I suppose Mexican it's a little bit closer, and I do love Mexican food, but no, Italian. You could just anything with Italian flavoring I would eat.
Yeah, any particular favorite dish?
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. What would be my favorite dish? Oh, I love crab linguine. I love the fact that they use a little bit of chili in it, a little squeeze of lime. I think that would be my favorite.
You're making me hungry over here. Oh, well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you taking the time, and we're definitely going to have you back.
Oh, that would be wonderful, JD. Thank you.
Marshall Younger is a writer and director, as well as the current showrunner for Adventures in Odyssey, which he has, of course, been a writer and director on that show for many years. But he has also written for Lamplighter Theater and Rivercross. I'd kind of like to hear from your perspective working in this space, and not just on Odyssey, but, Lamplighter, and, you've worked on a lot of other projects as well. So what is it about this medium of audio drama that just draws you in? Why do you enjoy working in this medium, and or how has working in this space impacted your life?
Well, there are a lot of reasons why I love audio drama, but I'll give you two reasons. Number one, it's obviously a dialogue-driven medium, and I love dialogue. I love words in general, and I love the rhythms that people. I study that, the rhythms of how people talk, the rhythms of jokes, of comedy, and I'm fascinated with that, and I feel like that's something that that's my strength. I think even more than story and character, I think I'm good at dialogue, and it really it's a bit of a cliche, but good dialogue really is like music to me. And there are some times when I will think of what I feel like is a good line of dialogue, and I will form an entire show around it, and I'll think, okay, how can I get to that line of dialogue? And in a natural way. And so, I'll do this outline and I'll put that line in. And so I love that about audio drama, is that it's so dialogue driven. And a second reason is that when I was in college, I was a radio, TV, film major. And even though radio is a third of that, I don't think I had ever heard an audio drama in my entire life up to that point. I don't think I had. But the thing that the department, the radio, TV, film department, they didn't really emphasize radio that much. It was more like working at a radio station kind of thing, like being a DJ, that kind of feel. Mm-hmm. But when they talked about TV and film, it was always that they said that film is a director's medium and TV is a writer's medium, meaning that the final product is more of a result of the imagination of the director in the case of a film, and a writer in the case of TV. That's changed a little bit by now, though. Now TV has become so complicated that it's becoming a director's medium. And in fact, there are comedies now that are and TV shows that are improvised on the spot, and so it's becoming an actor's medium. But the thing about audio drama is that to me, it's a listener's medium. I mean, it's also a writer's medium, but it's a listener's medium more than any of the other ones, because it requires the listener to fill in the blanks. They're the ones who have to decide what the people look like in the scene. They're the ones that have to decide what the setting looks like. Yeah. They're the ones that have to decide what the facial expressions are of the people that are talking. And in film, that's facial expressions communicate just as much as the dialogue at times. And so, because it's a listener's medium, it makes it a more immersive experience for the people that are listening. And when it becomes an immersive experience, they put themselves in the place of the characters. They empathize with the characters. They love the characters more. And when that happens, you have the ability to change hearts. Because the emotion is real, the wisdom is real, and that's I love that about audio drama. So those are the two things. And as far as being in the industry is concerned, it helps that it's comparatively it's an inexpensive way to make a show. It's an inexpensive way to get your stuff out there, because there's not as much pressure when you don't have $1 million budget.
Yeah.
I went through a phase when I loved film and I loved television, and that's all I wanted to do was write screenplays and work for a television show, and I got to do a little bit of that. So I got that out of my system, and I'm to the point now where I'm just really grateful that I have a platform to get my stuff out there, and that people can listen to it and potentially be moved by it.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and I've been loving hearing these perspectives from everybody. And as I said to you a moment ago before we started recording it, I'm going to have you come back, because there's so much that we could talk about. I mean, Rivercross and the work you did on Lamplighter. So we're going to have to do that at some point. But that's all we can squeeze in for today. But we do have a quick little lightning round. I'm calling it This or That. Okay. I'm going to toss out a couple things. You let me know which one is your preference. Are you ready?
I'm up for it. Go for it.
First off, mountains or beach?
Oh, mountains. I couldn't care less about the beach. My wife would be completely the opposite. And so we have, some conflicts there and where to pick our vacations. But I love the mountains. I love the hiking in the mountains. That's one of my favorite things to do. But the beach, I mean, other than the weather, the weather's usually nice in beaches. So
yeah. Okay. Well, how about rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
I don't know what that means. Rubber chicken is funnier. Rubber chickens are funnier.
Yeah.
You got to admit that. Rubber duckies may be more useful. I don't know what that means. That might be the strangest question I've ever been asked. But I love it. I'm going to say rubber chicken.
Okay. All right. And lastly, how about Mexican food or Italian food?
Oh, wow. I find that Mexican food, in restaurants, is less consistent. I think it's very easy to get bad Mexican food, and so I'm going to go with Italian just for that. I love pizza and pasta and all that stuff, and so I'm going to go Italian, but just barely. Okay. If the Mexican food is really good, then yeah, I might go the other way. But depends on the day.
Well, hey, you can always count on ATC to ask the hard-hitting questions, so.
Yes. Yes, and now I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight because I don't know how I feel about rubber chickens versus rubber duckies. So that's really this is changing my life.
Well, thank you for having this life-changing conversation with me. I really appreciate you taking the time.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, JD. This was fun. And yes, we absolutely need to have a longer conversation because there are lots we could talk about. I have been very blessed to be involved in lots of really, really well done audio drama. And so I'd love to talk about it. Love talking about it.
Glenn Haskell has been in and around the audio drama space for many, many years as a writer, director, producer, and actor. And he is the creative behind First Acts Productions, bringing us shows such as Dragnet, Range Drifters, On Demand, and many more. But he's also written for and provided voices for Misfits Audio, LRT Media, Eternal Future Productions, Greenhorn Tales, and just recently, he provided a voice for one of my micro audio dramas. Can you just share a little bit about what it is about this medium of audio drama that you love, and or how has working in this medium for such a long time impacted your life?
Well, I think probably I'd have to go back to the start of whatever it is that I'm currently doing, and that would have been late 70s, early 80s, doing some stage things and helping Like we had a gong show at school and some other things where I would go up and MC and this sort of thing. Then I became involved DJing at a skating rink. Ultimately, that led to radio, and that led to Stan Freeberg. And if that name means anything to you, he really was the one that urged me to think differently about how I created radio spots. And that in turn is what led me 10 years later into audio drama. And so I've been hanging out doing that kind of stuff since 94. So that's he's the guy, Stan Freeberg. There are others since then, but he was the first.
So what is it about this medium that keeps you working in it?
You know, it's no secret. I took about 3 years off and I thought I was done. I thought, I've created some things that I'm proud of, and I'm happy with it. I'm also pleased to provide voice work for other people, but I don't need to do the writing. And it's crazy. Once I came back and wrote something for the first time a little over a year ago, I just that was the thing I'd been missing. I do a lot of other writing, but this allowed some creativity that isn't always present in all the other. Not that I'm not creative elsewhere, but
sure,
it just scratched a different itch, I guess.
Sure, yeah. Well, that's the serious business question there, but let's move on to something a little more fun. I'm calling it this or that, so I'm going to toss out a couple of different things at you, and you just let me know what is your preference between the two. You ready?
Sure.
All right. First one, mountains or beach?
Mountains. I grew up in Wyoming, so that just seems, and I'm still where I'm at now. I'm not too far away from Colorado, so yeah, mountains.
Great. How about rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Rubber chicken. They have better videos.
And lastly, Mexican food or Italian food?
Oh, probably Italian, but it's real close.
Any particular dish?
Pizza.
Oh, yeah, you can't go wrong there.
Actually, Italian-made pizza is a little different than, the other stuff. But yeah, that's it. That's the no hardballs, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
throwing softballs at me. I think I caught him.
Yeah, there's no wrong answers here, and I gotta agree with you on that. Some fresh sliced mozzarella on there, and maybe some basil leaves. That's some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to join us for this special episode.
Yeah, thank you for asking. How nice of you.
It was my pleasure. Katie Lee is a prolific voiceover talent with experience in all different aspects of voiceover, but of course, in this space, she's most known as the voice of Connie Kindle on Adventures in Odyssey, but she's also worked on shows such as Lamplighter Theater, The Adventum, The Watch, and Abide. Well, thank you, Katie, for joining us for this special episode. I wanted to get perspectives from various different arenas of this industry, and so the question I'm asking everybody is, what is it about the audio drama medium that really keeps you pulled in? I mean, you've been doing Odyssey for so many years, but in recent years, you've been doing a lot more audio drama. So what is it about audio drama that keeps you coming back? And or how has working in this industry of audio drama impacted your life?
Oh, wow. Well, I've always liked audio drama. I mean, ever since I was a kid, this is what I like, is audio, radio, broadcasts. I think it's the most intimate medium. It's something very personal. When you listen to somebody several times, you feel like you know them. And it's a little different watching, entertainment on TV. I don't know why. I think adding that other dimension sort of takes out your brain being more active like it is in audio drama.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's it's interesting because there were records when I was growing up, there was radio, then we called it audio drama, but now they're called scripted podcasts, and people, it turns out it's never been out of style. People just have more access to it now. So it's great because we have more opportunity to work in the medium that we didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
It used to take so much to produce a show, right? I mean, when I started, I was editing tape with a razor blade. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different, right? Yeah, and I love the sort of resurgence of it because of the ease of access these days. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I think if people, if it weren't popular, it wouldn't be growing. I mean, I think it's just something that will always exist. And, when I teach too, this is what I heard. Your hearing is the last sense to go when you're dying. Like our hearing is just so key to our, existence. And our hearing plays a huge part in communication. Like when I'm teaching voiceover, I'll say, if you don't feel it here in your chest, we don't hear it in our ears, and our ears are lie detectors. So I think you have to be, you can listen to a story and be entertained, but, a really good voice actor has no other tools but their voice. Of course we use our bodies too, but, how we express ourselves can convey truth if we're really honest. And if we don't, our ears know. We can still be entertained, but we can go, okay, that was good. But to be really moved by somebody's vocal performance is so deep, I think. And I don't know the word for it. Palpable, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that perspective, and so I appreciate you taking the time. Now, we did the business up front. Now it's time for the party in the back. So I've got 3 quick questions here for you. I'm calling
That's like a mohawk, right?
a mullet. Yeah,
a mullet, not a mohawk. A mullet, right? That's right. Wrong.
So I'm calling it this or that. I'm just going to throw a couple things at you, and you tell me which one you prefer. If you want to expound on it,
That. I prefer that.
I'm with you on that.
Okay.
Okay, how about this? Mountains or beach?
I love them both. I love being outside. I'll say beach. I live at the beach.
Okay, how about rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Rubber ducky.
Okay. And lastly, Mexican food or Italian food?
Mexican.
All right.
I didn't have to think hard about that.
Hey, there's no wrong
what?
answers.
Speaking of rubber duckies, I'm going to London, right?
Uh-huh.
They've made I don't know if you've seen them, these rubber ducks that look like certain cartoon characters. And there's a Sheila the Thief rubber duck. And yeah, I'm going to see them when I get to England in person. Hopefully someone will buy one and autographed at my booth.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome.
Yeah, little Sheila rubber duck. How cool is that?
That's great. Yeah, I've seen like ones that look like Sherlock Holmes or different things like that.
Yeah, they think they're it's kind of like the Funko Pop competition or something.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. Rubber chickens are pretty cool too, though, I must say.
Well, thank you, Katie, for taking time to chat with us for a few minutes. I really appreciate it.
I love
you. Oh, thank you so much. I love you too.
Bye.
Pat Roy is a writer, director, and producer, probably most known as the co-creator of Jonathan Park, as well as the co-creator of Time Chroniclers and the producer of Journey to Nova Rupta. Well, Pat, thank you so much for joining us on this special episode. It's been a long time coming, and I know you've been sort of following us from the beginning, and so it's great to have you with us. And we're going to start off with a serious question that I've been asking everybody today, and that is, this medium of audio drama is an interesting one for storytelling. And what is it about it that you really like working in, and or how has working in this medium of audio drama impacted your life?
Well, JD, before I even answer that, congratulations, 200 episodes. That's incredible, huh?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I remember when you first started, just incredible. So, JD, the reason I love it is because storytelling is powerful. And, when you tell a story and you attach truths to it, I think it goes deep into somebody's heart. And I love that. And JD, as you know, one of the things that's cool as a Christian, when you're sharing a Christian message, if I share a truth, maybe a hard truth with a friend face to face, they may become offended by it and maybe even put up a wall between us as we're trying to communicate. But if I tell a story that's got the same message that goes just as deep and somebody listens to that, they don't put up the wall. In other words, it goes straight to their heart. So JD, I think that telling stories, audio drama is so powerful in so many ways. The other thing I love about audio drama is, I also do video now as well. And it's been shown scientifically that people kind of go into more of a sleep state while they're watching video, right? But when you're doing audio drama, the listener is actually creating all of the characters and backgrounds in their own mind. And that means that they are more engaged than they usually are. And so what a powerful medium for sharing the truth.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, yeah. I know, as with all of our guests today, there's so many things that we could talk about, but we just don't have the time if we're going to have all of these amazing people involved. So we're going to have to move on into the fun section. But thank you so much for sharing your heart about that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this thing. All right.
Here's the lightning round. I'm calling it this or that. I'm going to throw a couple things at you, and you just tell me which one you prefer. And if you want to elaborate a little bit, feel free, but no obligation to, okay?
Okay, you may just totally stump me. I may just sit here dumbfounded.
All right, first up, mountains or beach?
Oh, yeah, both.
That's accepted.
There you go. Yes, excellent. Yep. No, I love the mountains. I love the beach. It's awesome.
How about rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Well, I don't know. There's a couple restaurants here that actually serve rubber chicken, and, it lasts for a long time. One bite will last you about 10 minutes.
Okay, well, speaking of food, the final one here is Mexican food or Italian food?
Oh, Mexican food all the way.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
A particular dish?
Oh, I don't know. I get fajitas just about every time. But as you know, JD, with Mexican food, it's always the same food. It just comes in different formats, right?
Right.
It's small tortilla, large tortilla, no tortilla. But it's the same thing, and it's always awesome.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you again, Pat. Really appreciate you taking the time, and it's always a joy to talk with you.
Absolutely. And JD, again, congratulations, buddy. You guys have been doing an awesome job. You have been so kind to so many people. You've influenced so many people. It's amazing. I remember clear back when you started, and to see you now, it's amazing. Matter of fact, even this episode is a celebration of all the people that you've been involved with. So good job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Paul McCusker is another great contributor to this space as a writer, director, producer for many years on Adventures in Odyssey, of course, as well as Focus on the Family Radio Theater. He worked on productions for that series, such as The Screwtape Letters and The Chronicles of Narnia, just to name a few, and in recent years launched the Augustine Institute Radio Theater, which has put out some amazing shows such as The Legends of Robin Hood and The Victory of Joan of Arc. Well, this episode would not be complete if we're talking about industry guests, longtime professionals in this space, without having Paul McCusker. So thank you for taking the time, Paul. Really appreciate it. We're going to start with this question that I've been asking everybody today. What is it about this medium of audio drama that you really enjoy working in? You've done you've done writing for a lot of other mediums, but you continue to work in audio drama year after year. So what is it about this medium that keeps you coming back, and or how has working in this medium impacted your life?
Well, I think the second part of the question is obvious. It's impacted my life because I've been involved in it for so many years, and the opportunity when it started to work on Family Portraits, then Odyssey USA, Adventures in Odyssey, changed my life completely because it became the center point of all of the writing that I was doing. Honestly, I'm a bit of an opportunist, and I think if I had been approached by somebody who was willing to pay me a full-time salary to do something else, I would have gravitated that way. But this was the opportunity that came up. And as a kid, and it's almost cliche to say it, as a kid, I always messed around with audio. I was always playing around with a reel-to-reel recorder that had been lent to me by a relative and was creating short things, messing with sound, more or less. And I'm a huge music fan, and I've always been fascinated by how music uses sound through instrumentation and melody and everything else in order to create feelings and images and things. So honestly, for me, it's obviously changed my life because it has been the thing I've been doing for so many years. And I think you've probably heard from everyone else. I mean, the most obvious thing about it is the way in which it engages the imagination in a way that other formats don't or can't. And I actually looked this up. There is a technical explanation for this that I can give to you. It basically says, this is official.
Mm-hmm.
It engages the imagination by bypassing the octavial cortex of the brain and going straight beyond the parliamentary lobe and directly into the hypocraniothanos, where audiovations are stored. True story. That's a true explanation. You can look it up. So really, that's what draws me to audio drama. That explanation right there.
Well, that says it all right there.
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And you know, I know that you've worked on so many different shows, and this industry would be completely different without having you involved in with radio theater and air theater and just the stellar work that has come out of it. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. I mean, the privilege is all mine. The honor is mine. It is humbling, honestly, to be part of something that, especially such a fringe thing, because when we started it, and Phil and I have talked about this a lot. I mean, for Phil, he told me just flat out, he said, I don't know why you write books. Everybody's writing books. You want to do things that nobody else is doing. And he was absolutely right, because at the time we started doing Odyssey, no one else was doing it. And to continue to be able to do that has been a privilege. And I've been thinking over the last few days, honestly, about intended outcomes and unintended outcomes. And it sounds pretentious, but honestly, when you embark on something, whatever it is you're doing, there are intended outcomes, the things that you hope will happen. Like with an Adventures in Odyssey, there were intended outcomes that we'd hope would happen. The kids would be entertained and educated to a great degree, inspired in their spiritual lives, all of those things. And I think we can look at Odyssey and a lot of what we've done over the years and say, well, okay, those intended outcomes have happened. But then there are the unintended outcomes. And on the positive side of the unintended outcomes is the thing that I don't remember us ever talking about. There was no presumption on our part that we were working on something that might actually influence another generation or even two generations of listeners who would not only be inspired in their daily lives and relationships, but then would go on to create their own.
Yep.
That they would go, oh, because you did that, we want to do that, but we're going to do it with movies and TV. And I mean, Dallas Jenkins has said that Adventures in Odyssey was a big influence on him and triggered his desire to some degree to want to tell stories through film. So that's what you could call an unintended outcome. We didn't think in those terms. All we were thinking about was the job at hand and to do it and hopefully do it properly. So I'm grateful. I really am. I think we've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to work on something like this and see to a great degree the impact that it's had, in all humility, truly.
Oh, absolutely. Huge impact. And as you said, not just in other mediums, but I mean, I would say the majority of the current new batch, that's a bad word, but of creators in this space now can all point back to AIO as an influence. So yeah, it's been huge.
Well, thank you.
Well, I mean, we could talk about this all day, but it's time to move on to the lightning round, have a little bit of fun here. I'm going to call it this or that. I'm going to throw a couple things at you. You let me know which one is your preference. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Mountains or beach?
Mountains.
How about rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Rubber ducky, but that's Phil's fault.
Okay. And how about Mexican food or Italian food?
Italian.
Okay. Any particular dish?
I'd have to think about that. See, I'm allergic to garlic, so I have to be very careful about what I have. But a lot of Italian. I can't think of a particular dish, honestly.
Well, it's all good, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time. And we're going to have you come back on at some point and give us the backstory to the chicken and Phil story. So
yes, I'll do that sometime. But I think astute fans will equate just the idea of a chicken, and I would say a talking chicken with Phil in one of the Odyssey shows.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so even when you say rubber chicken, I think of that. So I'd go with the rubber ducky.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. You know what? When I was younger, that episode, I loved it. I listened to it over and over, but it always creeped me out, but I still enjoyed it.
No, that was Phil's Twilight Zone episode. I mean, he was always keen to do Twilight Zone type episodes, and that was one where he did it. I mean, when I talk to fans of the show about it, that one inevitably comes up as one of those. Yeah, I listened to it a lot, but boy, did it freak me out. It was just so creepy on so many levels. And so he did a very good job doing that one.
Yeah,
because that's what he was trying to do.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, well done.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
All right, thank you, JD.
Jared DePasquale is a composer who has worked in this industry for many years and has written scores for shows such as Focus on the Family Radio Theater, working on productions like The Secret Garden, Les Miserables, The Hiding Place, to name a few. And of course, he has worked on Adventures in Odyssey, The Adventum, Jonathan Park, Augustine Institute Radio Theater, and The Brinkman Adventures. Well, Jared, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show again. Really appreciate that. And I just wanted to get some perspectives from different professionals in this industry. And the question I've been asking is, what is it about the medium of audio drama that you really enjoy working in, and or how has working in this medium impacted your life?
Yeah, because I came to audio drama first as a score guy that had worked primarily in television and film, the deadlines on film and television are so tight. And even when you're working on something that's really good, the deadlines are so tight that you don't really emotionally invest in something the way you do with audio dramas, particularly of projects that are of length.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, when I work on a lengthy audio drama, it could mean I'm literally working on it for 6 months, which gives you a lot of time to really invest in the characters and the story arc and internalize it.
Mm.
And because of that, I found certain audio dramas really impacting me in pretty serious ways. I certainly remember Little Women being probably the first one to really impact me. I was in my late 20s, and at the time, I was so career focused, I really didn't consider whether I wanted a family or kids. It just wasn't on my mind. I was just a workaholic. And being in Little Women for 6 months, it really kind of birthed a desire in me to have a family.
Mm.
And then, of course, working on The Hiding Place, that was very life-changing. And then all the way into like 2016 when I got to do Brother Francis, that impacted me so much. I felt like I would never be the same person after spending that kind of time with Francis. And so that's what I love about the medium. Boy, it hits me so hard. It really gives me time to consider the story's themes and the characters' motivations in a way that most other media projects don't, simply because the deadlines don't allow me to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to break my rule here and ask a follow-up question. So I know that you put a bit of yourself into every score, but does the vice versa happen? Does the opposite happen as well? Do you think a little bit of each score lives in you as after you've moved on from those projects?
Wow, that's pretty deep, JD. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, certainly to a certain degree, the themes that I've written for those particular types of shows, whether it's Little Women or The Hiding Place or Francis or Patrick or Joan of Arc or Freedom, those themes are like almost at my beck and call, the way they're a part of my language in the same way that the English language is a part of my language. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like those themes are kind of forever tied to me as part of who I am. And that's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool.
No, I don't think it's weird at all. As a creative myself, I completely understand what you're saying. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, if you're a writer and you write a character's, whether it's like a monologue or a soliloquy, and you put everything you are into that character's lines, I would have to believe as a writer, you remember some of those sentence structures because they're so connected to who you are as a writer and a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I could talk about this stuff with you all day long. Well, so we're going to move on to the party at the back. As I told it, Katie Lee, we had the business at the front, and we're going to move on to the party at the back here with the lightning round.
Good.
I'm calling it this or that. I'm going to throw a couple things at you. You just let me know what your preference is between the two, and if you want to expound on it a little bit, feel free.
Okay, this or that. I like it.
All right. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Okay. Rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Rubber ducky. Rubber chicken's kind of weird to me.
Okay. And lastly, Mexican food or Italian food?
So I'm half Italian, but I'm going to choose Mexican simply because my wife likes Mexican and we go there all the time. So I'm kind of going against my heritage on that answer.
Hey, there's no wrong answers around here, unless your wife has something to say about it. So,
well, she's a passionate Mexican food person, so I think I've adopted that.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to join us for this special episode, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
You too, JD, man. Thanks for having me.
John Fornoff is a writer, director, producer, and actor who has worked on so many different shows in this industry. There's too many to name here, but he's got his fingerprints on a lot of different projects in this space, including Adventures in Odyssey, Lamplighter Theater, The Adventum, The Extraordinary Adventures of G.A. Henty, and Jonathan Park. Well, John, as I was thinking about putting together this special episode, I knew I had to have John Fornoff involved in this lineup of industry guests because you've been involved in all different aspects of audio drama. So I'm anxious to hear your opinion on this question. But the question that I've been asking everybody today is, what is it that you love about this medium of audio drama? What keeps you coming back to it all year after year? And or how has working in the medium of audio drama impacted your life?
What an amazing question. Thank you. I love it. I love audio drama because it awakens your imagination. I like watching, TV shows, watching movies, that kind of thing. But I love audio drama because that stuff is spoon-fed to you when you're watching a TV show or a movie. With audio dramas, you're creating as you're listening. So you're actually co-creating. It wakes up the creator in you. And it is just a fun, interactive medium like no other one, another one out there, because you're creating as you're listening. So you are, in a way, you're directing. You're directing where the actors are. You're directing what their costumes look like, production design. What's the room look like? You're picturing all that. You're creating. So as you are in the audio drama, you're participating in it, it becomes part of you. It's a very personal, beautiful, imaginary experience. And it's very vivid. So it wakes up your imagination and it also just wakes up that creativity in you. And you are participating in it like no other medium.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And, there's so much more that we could talk about here. And I that's the limitation of this particular format of this episode. But, we're going to have you come back on at some point and talk about this a little more in depth. Because again, the last time you were on here, you hadn't really been moving into the acting side of things too much, other than, a bit part here and there. So we definitely want to talk about that and some of the other projects you've been working on in recent years. Awesome. But if you're ready, let's move on to the lightning round here.
Okay, real quick, I got a very quick one, which might be a nice little caveat for you. Just a very quick one. I was working with Adventures in Odyssey on the writing team. That was a dream job. Loved it. I mean, the best of the best audio drama writers and directors right around me. And I pitched a question one time, and I said, okay, you walk into Woods End, what do you see? And somebody says, well, you walk in and the soda fountain, the counter's on the right, and then you go, no. Somebody else says, no, it's on the left. And like somebody says, no, it's in the back, and you got to go right. No, that's where. So these are the writers for Adventures in Odyssey. And we have our own picture of what it looks like. We have different versions. That's the beauty of audio drama is you're making up your own story, your own environment as you're doing it. And that goes right back to the Adventures in Odyssey writers when we were disagreeing on what it looked like. Because it becomes part of you. It's like, don't mess with that. That's what it looks like right there, you know. So I thought that's kind of a fun question to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to the fun stuff here. Sure. And that's the lightning round. I'm calling it this or that. I'm going to throw a couple things at you, and you just let me know which one you prefer.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. First up is mountains or beach?
Oh, beach.
How about rubber chicken or rubber ducky?
Oh, that's so hard. Rubber ducky. That was a painful one. That was really painful.
You know, I ask the hard-hitting questions around here.
Man, talk about journalism. This has gone places I've never gone with a journalist before, so this is amazing.
And lastly, how about Mexican food or Italian food?
Italian.
All right.
Yeah.
Any particular dish?
Yeah, just anything Italian. I love Italian. There's something romantic. I mean, Mexicans, I'm sure, are romantic too, but it just has a different vibe with, it's, but Italians, there's something about, they talk with their hands. I talk with my hands. I eat with my fork, usually not my hands. But anyway, I love the food. I love the atmosphere. It's romantic. It's like, it's emotive. It's just like, just enjoy it. So
that's
awesome. It's the romantic in me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, sir, for participating in this milestone episode. Really, really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. It's a joy. It's a joy being here. JD, thank you. It's a blessing.
All right. Thank you. Well, huge thank you to every single one of these industry guests for coming on the show. I've gotten to know all of these people over the years, and I've been able to meet many of them in person, and they have become friends of mine over the years, and I'm so grateful for them. And I am so honored that each and every one of them was willing to spend a little bit of time with me on this particular episode. Thank you, every single one of you. Well, it is time to bring onto the show the current lineup of ATC contributors, and let's have a fun chat with the ATC team. I've been looking forward to this segment for a long time. I reached out to the guys weeks and weeks ago and said, hey, ATC 200 is coming up. What do you think about trying to bring in all of the current co-host cast and have a little roundtable discussion? They were down for it. And then I reached out to the blog contributors and tried to get them involved as well. And when everybody confirmed, I was just so happy because we've never done anything like this before. And so I'm really excited to bring the creative people behind ATC to you on the show today. All of the contributors. Austin Peachy is here. Austin, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Michael Schrader, frequent co-host in recent years.
Hello. Yes, I'm honored to be among one of the members of this august group of people on this recording.
As well you should. And
very true.
Christopher Green, who has been a co-host a couple of times and a blog contributor as well.
Yep, glad to be here.
And lastly, but not leastly, Robert Thacker. Thank you so much for coming on. You've never been on the podcast before, but you've been a blog contributor for many, many years. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for having me.
Unfortunately, Joa Pearson, our other blog contributor, was not able to make it today, but we're going to have to try to do something like this again and get him as well. But this is way overdue. And so thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show. I thought it would be fun to just, as we were marking this milestone here of 200 episodes, I thought it would be kind of fun to just reach out to you guys and find out, not find out because I already know, but we're going to share with the listener how you first got connected with ATC and how you started getting involved with this show and the blog and things like that. So, Austin, I think you were the first one, although it might have been Robert. Now that I'm thinking about it, but one of you guys was the first. But Austin, you've been on the podcast more often, so let's start with you. Tell us how you first found Audio Theater Central. Now, this one, I'm not sure because I don't know if I remember this story. So this might be news to me too.
So I guess I can make up anything I want and you wouldn't know the difference. No, just kidding. So I think I first heard about ATC on the Odyssey Scoop website, which is, in my opinion, the best Odyssey fan site out there. Jacob Isom is a very connected person, and he was so great at sharing new podcasts, websites, and things like that to his audience. So I think I read on there one of his blog posts about Audio Theater Central, and it sounded interesting to me. Like, it's a podcast that's not just Odyssey, but other shows as well. And so I checked it out. I think I listened to episode 00, I think it was labeled, like the intro thing. I'm not sure if episode 1 had dropped yet or not. But yeah, I listened to it and I enjoyed it. I grew to love it much more later. But it was interesting.
Yeah, it was an acquired taste.
I know, that came out wrong. Yeah, that came out wrong. Sorry about that.
I shouldn't have laughed. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good because, first episodes of my podcast, and I'm sure JD would say too, the first episode is always going to be not the greatest, but as you go...
I loved your first episode, JD. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I've never been invited back again, am I? But no, yeah, I enjoyed hearing not just Odyssey-related stuff, because that's a lot of the podcasts I listen to is Odyssey-related stuff, and hearing about Lamplighter Theater. I think I heard about Lamplighter Theater first on Odyssey Scoop 2, and I got to hear the interview. I think the first episode was an interview with Mark Hamby, I think, and then a review of season 1, I think, something like that, of Lamplighter Theater. And, I followed the show. I think I listened to every single episode after that, pretty much. I might not have listened to one if it was a production that I hadn't heard yet, and I wanted to avoid any kind of spoilers or something like that. But yeah, I have, for lack of a better term, it wasn't quite love at first sight, but ATC has now become my number one favorite podcast to listen to. It's not just because I'm able to be a part of it. That was true before I started being on the podcast. It is the first one on my podcast app. The very first one in the listed podcast is Audio Theater Central, and I am so privileged to be a part of this team and to be able to listen to a new episode every month. It's always a joy and a pleasure to be able to do that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been so much fun working with you over the years, and I think you've probably written the most posts out of anybody here from the contributors. I mean, I think obviously I write a post every month for the episodes, but actual articles and things like that, news updates and stuff. So your contributions have not gone unnoticed, and definitely appreciated.
Oh, you're most welcome.
All right, who should we go to next? How about Robert? Because I do think he was probably one of the first ones who wrote a post. I think your first post, Robert, was a review of Lifehouse Theater on the Air production, wasn't it? Or maybe it was of a Lamplighter Theater. Do you recall?
I believe it was either Sir Malcolm or was it Ricky Tikki Tavi?
Yeah.
Those were like my first two from Lifehouse.
Yeah.
But that was about 10 years ago. I think it was 2014. So it's been a bit.
So, sorry, Crack Research Team. His first blog post was the review of Sir Malcolm and the Missing Prince, published on July 1st, 2015.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm a year off.
Yeah, but you had reached out before then, I'm pretty sure. So let us know, how did you first hear about ATC, and how did we first connect?
Yeah. So, probably about 10, 12 years ago, my oldest brother, who had been a podcast listener for a while, let me know about ATC because we both loved audio dramas, and he was like, you should check this out. And ultimately through that, I ended up working with Pat Roy, creator of Jonathan Park, and did some really cool things through that. So I have a lot to thank ATC for in just how it's actually had a pretty significant impact in what I've done over the years. And then specifically writing articles, I think I had started writing on my own website just some audio drama stuff, kind of to try to introduce more people to the genre who hadn't necessarily grown up with it. And I think that was what I had kind of pitched to you, JD, of like, here's my writing, and I would love to contribute at some point. And the rest, I guess, is history.
Yeah. And yeah, you've written some pretty in-depth posts, and I always appreciate it. And now I don't remember all the specifics, but you wrote a review of season 1 of The Encounter, which was the show produced by Liberty University. And then you ended up going to Liberty, right? And you met those guys after that. And so they knew you from ATC, right?
Yes, that was a wild story. And I did not expect to be able to make that connection with those folks, because I wrote that article on The Encounter, and then probably a good 6 months to a year passed. And a friend of mine had actually been a student at Liberty and worked with the guys who created The Encounter. But I did not know about that connection. I just heard, there's some people there that my friend knew. And so he set up just a lunch when I went down there with the creators of The Encounter. And so I got to talk with them. I had no idea that they read my article and that they knew who I was. So that blew my mind when I sat down with them. And it was just very cool to talk with them about it.
That is really, really neat. Yeah, I remember later. Actually, you may have let me know that happened shortly thereafter. But when I connected with the Liberty people, they told me about it too. So I was like, "Wow, that's cool." I knew that they had read the review because they took a snippet from it, a blurb, and used it on their website, and they cited you, said Robert Thacker.
Yeah,
so
that's so cool.
This industry can seem like it's pretty big, but once you get into it, it is quite a bit smaller, and there's some just really cool people in this space. I mean, I think all of us would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I'm here, so.
I mean, of course, that goes without saying.
So clearly.
Well, and I just want to brag about ATC for a second here, because it's been such a central hub for people who love audio drama and who are working in the space to actually be able to connect. Like if the site did not exist, all of these connections that we're talking about right now would not have been made. And so I really do appreciate it, and it's pretty special.
Yeah, here.
Well, thank you, and it's due in part to the contributions of all of you. And again, Robert, thank you for all of the reviews, and we probably need to have you on the podcast a little bit more often, because I think that would be fun.
I'd love it.
Well, Michael, I know this story pretty well, but let the listener know how.
Because I probably forgot.
Well, I mean, I know how we first connected, but I guess I don't really know exactly how you first heard about ATC.
Oh, well, I can't quite remember, but I think it was a Google search. I was probably looking for free audio drama, and I came across Audio Theater Central, and I was like, this isn't free audio drama. And then I was like, but it's people talking about audio drama. So if I can get a review and get most of the storyline, I don't feel like I need to buy it. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, that wasn't a good joke to make here. Just cut that out. Strike that from the record. But no, and it was like audio dramas that I was already familiar with. I think I'd already been working with Lamplighter a little bit. And so I was like, wow, this is great. And then when I connected with you was at one of the Odyssey live shows, and I forget which one it was. Do you remember?
It was the first Get in the Show finale.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you put out a call on the podcast saying, if anybody's going to the event, I could use some help. I don't remember what you were wanting help with, just like to carry equipment or something.
And take photos, yeah.
Oh, take photos. Did I take photos?
And get you coffee.
Yeah.
Yes.
The most important.
That was a big thing.
Top of the list, the coffee,
And so I just showed up to the event with a cup of coffee, and I knew exactly what he wanted, and he thought it was weird. And I'm just kidding. No, I just and I reached out and said, hey, I live in Colorado, and so I'm not that far from Focus on the Family. And so I just met up with him there. I think I met Austin on that trip too. So it was just like a weekend of celebrities. And so that was pretty cool.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, you reached out and said, hey, I'm going to be there. I'd be happy to help you. And so, yeah, we met for the very first time there at Focus on the Family headquarters. And now looking back on that, it's just like, I don't know this guy. I mean, he says he listens to the podcast. Apparently he does, because he heard me put the call out, but I have no idea who this guy is. But yeah, I was like, yeah, sure, come on in. I'll let you help me. No, but
I know you were very gracious, and it was crazy because we had some mutual connections. Like I actually knew your parents because I had met them through some like church events because they pastor a church in Southern Colorado, and so I'd already met them at some point.
But I had no idea of any of this at the time. In fact,
I didn't either when I first met you. I didn't.
We didn't find that out until after at the event that day, and so yeah, it was really cool. That was a great event. You were a huge help to me, taking photos.
I carried your bag so well,
making sure that I hit record when we were interviewing Bob Smiley the second time.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's this button, JD, not that one.
Yeah.
And really, it was just like a backstage pass for me because JD had the press badge and the connections, and so I was able to get in there and meet actors and stuff that I wouldn't have otherwise. So that's what I've been all through my experience with ATC is I follow behind JD, and then people are like, "Oh, you're with JD?" And I say, "Yes, of course I am," and then they suddenly respect me, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I remember you telling me because I said when you get to the entrance, because I was already inside the main camp or the main building of the campus, and I think something happened because you were coming down from northern Colorado to the Springs, and you were running a little bit behind, and so I said, "Well, I'm already in. Just tell the security guy at the door that you're with JD with Audio Theater Central, and they'll bring you in." And so you get there and you tell them, and they like usher you right back in, and you were just like blown away. They're like, they just let me come right in. Like I didn't even have to go through the line or anything.
Yeah, an experience with JD is an experience in imposter syndrome for me. It's a pretty pretty great. His name opens doors. And then I don't know if this was the second time, if it was after the first Get in the Show or not, but I was coming down to Arizona for a wedding. And I was driving with my mom, and I said, I let you know. And you offered, well, I don't know if I asked you or if you offered now. But anyways, we stayed at your house.
Yeah.
And you barely knew us at all. And so that was even more gracious. And I made fun of HOAs while I was there. And then you told me that you worked for an HOA. Something to do with HOAs. And I was like, oh, man, I'll probably never talk to this guy again.
Yeah, that was a great trip, and I really enjoyed having you and your mom. And Michael, you've actually become a really good friend over the years, and I appreciate you and your involvement in the show. And of course, now you're involved with Greenhorn Tales as well. I don't remember how that came about, but I remember that at that Get in the Show event, you told me about your novel, which I then read. Actually, you gave me a copy, and I really enjoyed that. And so I'm like, well, this guy's a writer, and when Greenhorn Tales came about, I don't remember how it first happened, but I guess I must have asked you, hey, what do you think about writing for the show? And so, yeah, now I think you wrote 3 or 4 episodes from season 1 and more to come in season 2. But yeah, it's been a great relationship, and having you on the ATC team has been a lot of fun. And obviously the people have heard you on our episodes from SonicCon and subsequent reviews. And so become a great part of the show. So thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you welcoming me in like you did, and all of the stuff I've done has just come through your gracious acceptance of me, overlooking of my many faux pas. So I appreciate that.
Oh, it's easy to do. You're such a likable guy.
Thank you. And Christopher, you're not allowed to talk at this point.
Well, hey, speaking of Christopher, that's a perfect segue. Christopher, yeah, let the people know how you first found out about ATC. We just talked about this just recently.
But Michael said I can't talk, so.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode. Just kidding. All right, I relinquish the right to make you not talk.
That was really hard.
Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. Actually, it's funny because I think I'm the only one here that didn't get an introduction to JD through ATC, actually, but was introduced to ATC through JD. So I first interacted with JD because of our mutual connection to Christopher 164, who was a blogger at the time. He's a YouTuber now. And he was a big fan of Audio Theater Central, as well as the Ceiling Fan podcast, by Kevin McCreary, which I was working on with Kevin at the time. And I've been chatting up with Christopher, and he, I guess, did the discuss comment system that is used on a lot of websites, including JD's personal website, jdsutter.me. Little name drop for JD there. Some great content there. You should check out as well if you have not. But he was using that discuss comment system on there, as was Christopher on his own blog at the time. And it kind of gives you like recommendations on other blogs that people you comment, follow, kind of like a social system, kind of also comment on. And so I checked out this post that I saw something about field recorders, I believe was the post, and, portable recording devices. And I had a Zoom H4n for recording Foley stuff on audio dramas. And so I dropped in to read the article, and I think I commented on the article saying like, oh, sounds like a really neat field recorder you're talking about. I use this field recorder when I do Foley. And JD's like, Foley? What do you do Foley on? And so I told him about some of the projects that I was working on. And I think we connected from there to eventually work together on Verses in Vox, which is another fantastic podcast you guys should check out. I don't remember the URL off by heart, but you should definitely check it out.
Versesinvox.com.
There we go, versusvox.com, a great poetry show. And I did some sound design on that for JD. And I forget exactly when it is in that point that I started listening to ATC. Actually, I think I had heard about it before I interacted with JD, but I didn't put two and two together for shockingly long. And then I did put two and two together, so I checked it out. And I've always appreciated the in-depth reviews that JD has done, and how he's even reformatted the show in recent years, and the monologue segment has become one of my most favorite segments for sure, to hear what JD's thinking. And
and I think I remember you telling me about Shadows and Daylight in that comment section, and that's all still there. I went and read through it not that long ago. It's all still there in the comments on that post on my website. And I was like, oh, this is a really cool time capsule, kind of looking back. And now we've known each other for what has been over 10 years now. And now we work on all kinds of projects together. I've voiced characters in your show, and then we make Greenhorn Tales together. And now you're part of the ATC crew and Audio Drama Alliance. I mean, that's a whole other thing that we could talk about for a long time, which we don't have time for today. But oh my goodness, yeah, it's been a crazy, amazing ride, and all of this comes back to ATC. I mean, if this didn't exist, I wouldn't know any of you guys. So it's just really cool. It's really cool.
Well, and going back to that value that ATC brings to the community and those connections, and I think it was Austin that was mentioning it earlier about those connections. I could be wrong, but I'll give Austin credit anyways. He doesn't get enough credit. He's a great guy. But going back to those connections, I mean, I've done surveys, I've done, stats and links tracking and those kinds of things. And I can say with strong certainty that the majority of my listenership in projects that I've worked on, like personally, like things like Shadows and Daylight, comes from people who checked it out because of Audio Theater Central. And so like that's, it's a significant impact on not just my shows, but shows in general, that people are going to check it out because of Audio Theater Central. I've checked out so many shows because of Audio Theater Central. I'd be like, I don't know, what's good, and then seeing what I think a bit of time travel. I think I first checked out because of Audio Theater Central, if I remember correctly. I could be totally nuts about and wrong, but I've checked out a few things specifically because of ATC.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. And just to clarify, those are two different things. You could be nuts and you could be wrong too. So, I mean, those are not mutually exclusive. No, that was very rude of me after those very kind words, and then I just give you an uppercut right to the jaw. So,
yeah.
No, but yeah, you guys are so great, and it's always fun to work with you. The posts that you guys have written when you guys are on the show. It's just a blast to work with people that you like working with. I've said that kind of thing before, but it's really true. And I, at this point, I have to say, I mean, it would be totally remiss if I didn't say shout out to Roy and Andrew for over 10 years of co-hosting the show with me, getting it up and running with me, and a huge part of the content over those years, and just so integral in what ATC became. And you guys have been stepping in since their exit, and it's been great having you guys involved. Before we head out the door, just real quickly, and we don't have a whole lot of time, but and I know this is going to be a challenge, but we'll go down the line and just to real quickly share what it is about audio drama that you really love. What keeps you invested in this medium? So, we'll start with you, Austin.
I like it better when someone else goes first. I'm just kidding. That is a really tough question.
That's a great reason, Austin.
Well, audio drama to me is something that I grew up with. That and books is my main media source. And I don't know, there's something so cozy about it. There's something just so personal and something so unique about audio drama that it's like I listened to Adventure Odyssey for years, and like those characters and even the actors on there are basically, I consider those people to be my family, even though they're fictional characters. And I think there's studies about how listening to something directly, like if you listen to like a podcast or a talk show host or something like that, there's something more personal about just listening to their voice, not seeing any visuals. And I think that's been a big part of why I love audio drama and how it makes my imagination bigger and is such a fun way to consume stories.
Yeah, I mean, there's no wrong answers here. I mean, it's going to be a little bit different probably for every one of us, but I think it will also overlap a little bit too, because this medium audio is called an intimate medium. I mean, because it's going right into your eardrums, and especially if you're listening to something with headphones or something, it draws you in. It's very, very close. And so I love that about it too. How about you, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, I could second everything that Austin just said there. But one of the things that I really appreciate about audio drama is how it is a form of story that forces creativity, because you cannot write a audio drama without using some unique ways of telling a story. And then as a listener, you get to interpret it with the creators, because you're playing a role in imagining what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty unique thing for audio drama. Of course, you have that with books as well, but audio drama has a whole nother level of all of the visuals are prompted with sound effects, with voice.
Yeah.
But then you get to fill in the gaps. And I think that's just beautiful.
Totally. Yeah. How about you, Michael?
Oh, man. See, Austin, it was better to go first because, everything you guys said, I'm just going to be repeating stuff because, it just gives so much scope for the imagination. And growing up, we took a lot of long car trips. We didn't have TV. I think we, would watch a movie every once in a while, but audio drama was like the primary form of entertainment for us. And still, as an adult, it gives you the ability to like engage with story even while you're doing other things. Audio drama taught me to be a multitasker. That's one of the foundational things now. And a lot of the creators of audio drama, well, at least the stuff that I've been exposed to, there's so much high quality audio drama that agrees with my values, as a Christian, and I appreciate that a lot. And so there's really great stories that are being told with this really great medium. And so that's why I appreciate audio drama. Very different from Austin and Robert, but I just that unique perspective.
Yeah, that is a good point. I hadn't thought really about that too much, but yeah, that's very valid. All right, Christopher.
Okay, try to come up with something new.
No pressure.
I like how visual it is. No, I'm just kidding. One could say that, make a case for that, but that's not the case that I'm going to make. I think some of what I appreciate about audio drama, the two things that I was just thinking of is collaboration, and the other thing is, so I'm a multimedia artist, I guess you could say, and I think what I appreciate in different mediums is how you can lean into the either showing and not telling or the hiding certain facts until just the right moment. We talked about Greenhorn Tales briefly that JD and Michael and I all work on, and that's a comedy. And there's the fact that you can obscure certain things from the audience because they can't see it until you let them know about it, and you let them know at just the right time for the perfect comedic effect. You can do that in mystery and all kinds of other things too. So I like using the fact that you can't see to redirect people with that clever sleight of hand. But the other thing that I like about audio drama is the collaborative aspect. Now, this may not have been something we would have said about audio drama 15, 20 years ago necessarily, but I think in this day and age of connection through the internet and everything like that, there's a whole new world of audio drama collaborative opportunities that would be much harder in another medium like film. You know, if the 5 of us in this virtual room wanted to make a short film together, it would be much harder to do that in a seamless way remotely that would not feel piecemealed and awkward. Whereas I have collaborated in some form or fashion with the 5 of you in this virtual room on audio drama at some form, shape, or form at some point.
Yeah.
And it's seamless. You wouldn't know we weren't all in the same room kind of thing, you know? And certainly there is something to be said about recording people in the same room that has a certain effect too. But I think it opens up a wealth of opportunity to collaborate with really cool people from all over the place and just make something that's greater than the sum of its parts that is hard to do in other mediums.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. And I should say, I mean, I don't know why this didn't occur to me earlier, but both Robert and Austin have also been involved in Greenhorn Tales. Austin did some voice track editing very early on I think it was either on the pilot or season 1. You know, I think it was one episode of season 1.
It was the pilot. I did a little bit on the pilot.
Okay. And then Robert did sound design on an episode from season 1.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the title now. Robert, can you remind me?
There was a violin. I honestly forget the title too.
Oh, Fiddles and Flapjacks or Flapjacks and Fiddles, one of those two.
Yes.
Flapjacks and
Yeah. Great job on that. So yeah, in fact, his snippet of his work got featured at Sonicon, the first Sonicon, because that was the only piece of Greenhorn Tales that was actually finished at that time. But
oh wow, I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we got to premiere that a segment of that episode at Sonicon. But yeah, so man, guys, thank you so much for doing this. It's a joy to work with all of you. It was so great having you all on the show. I've really appreciated it. And I just want you to know publicly that your contributions have not gone unnoticed. And I was just telling Austin this the other day because it was not long ago, it was his birthday, but I don't say it enough, but I really do appreciate you guys and the contributions that you've made to this community, and not just to ATC, but to audio drama as a whole, because each of you have in, you know, as Robert's story earlier illustrated, have impacted others in the industry. And now Austin is working as an audio drama producer these days, and Christopher has been producing stuff too. And so it's a great community. And I just want you guys to know that I appreciate all of you.
Well, we appreciate you, JD. More than you know, more than you realize.
Here.
Absolutely.
Well, before we say goodbye, I have one final question, and this is going to be probably the most difficult one yet. So I don't know if you guys are ready for this.
No, I'm not. Wait, I want to ask you, why are you so passionate about audio drama, JD? You've done 200 episodes of Audio Theater Central, and I'd like you to answer the question that you made us answer before you go on to the last really hard one. I have to prepare myself.
He's getting power hungry.
You should have waited for him to ask the question, then ask him the question, so you had time to think about your answer while he's answering the question.
I am so bad at timing. You're right. Okay, ask the question.
No, but similar to you, Michael, I did grow up in a home without a television too, so audio entertainment was, you know, what we listened to. And it's the same thing here. My family did travel a lot. We took road trips. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of money, so our vacations were usually road trips to visit family in nearby states or things like that, or going to see some natural wonders in our area, different things like that. And so we were constantly listening to stories. And of course, I was listening to things on the radio as well. And so audio drama has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, really. And I remember the very first audio drama I ever heard, I was probably 4 years old. And it was from a series called Standin' Tall. They're no longer in production, but you can still find them out there. And they're not super deeply immersive stories like we might get from Odyssey or radio theater, but they were audio drama, full cast, sound effects, music, and they taught character building lessons with each production. And they would come in on a cassette, and there was a little book that would go along with it, and there was illustrations all throughout, and the entire script of the story was in the book, so you could follow along as you were listening. And like I said, I was about 4 years old listening to those stories. And so I grew up with those. And I don't know when it first really just sunk in as I love this medium so much, but it became such a part of my life that as I started working in producing audio for other things and hosting shows and things like that, I was thinking, there's got to be other people out there like me who really enjoy audio drama and would like to talk about it. And so that was one of the reasons why I decided to do ATC. But it's just because this medium is so amazing and it is so immersive. And I do love the aspect. And here is where I'll start repeating everything you guys have said. But you can be driving for a long distance. I mean, not just riding in the car, but you can be driving and listen. You can't watch something while you're driving. At least you shouldn't. Don't do that. But you can't be playing a video game or, those kind of things. And so there's a way to consume great content that's not just high quality, but as you pointed out, Michael, the majority of the high quality audio drama in the world, and I don't have any qualms saying that, some of the highest quality audio drama in the world is being made in the family friendly space, specifically by Christian organizations. And so it's great, not just awesome stories, but it's great for you as a person, character building and spiritual lessons and things like that. So this storytelling medium is just amazing. And I would be out mowing the lawn with a Walkman clipped to my belt, listening to Adventures in Odyssey and things like that. It's just...
Wow, what's a Walkman? I'm just kidding.
Google it. You'll figure it out.
Oh, okay.
But and the more I got into it, and in the early days of the Adventures in Odyssey website and seeing the behind the scenes of the voice actors and things like that, I'm sure all of you here remember that old website that had sort of like a pie chart looking graphic on the front page with the different sections of the website wedges,
Yes.
and just, oh goodness, the good old days. And finding some of these other fan sites. I mean, I think maybe the AIOHQ was around back then when I first started getting online and looking at stuff like that. And so it's just seeing the fan base and just thinking, it would be awesome to be a part of this. And so I don't know. I think I went a little bit beyond the original question, but it is an amazing storytelling medium. And the more I've gotten into on the behind the scenes sort of things, on the production side of things, the more I appreciate the medium because it is so powerful. And there are so many things you can do with it you can't do with other mediums. And it's so versatile. And I love it.
Well, and I love that you found such a creative way to contribute because I think a lot of us growing up listening to Adventures in Odyssey thought, oh, I'd love to be part of audio drama, as an actor, writer, whatever. But to do reviews and then the Seneca Awards and all the different ways that you've brought the audio drama community, all these different players together is a really cool way to contribute. So I think that's a really awesome thing about ATC.
But JD also contributes now more and more, I would say, as an actor and all these things as well.
Right.
I'm just gonna, and I know that you weren't glossing over that, Michael, but I just like to, inflate JD's tires because I know he's not gonna, he's not too self-promoty, so I'm gonna promote him for him. But he's done recently a fantastic short audio drama called Another Year Older, Another Year Wiser, which I think is one of the best things that I've heard recently in audio drama. So you can check that out at jdsutter.me as well. So that's a great one to check out. But yeah, he's done more and more voice too, showing up in Pirateers as well. What else have you been? You've been in a bit of time travel I believe. Can I say this? A recent Heart Matters production that came out. You can edit that out if I can't say that. I think I can say that.
Spider on the Fly.
That's already been on the... Yeah, there you go. And,
it's publicly available.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think there's quite a bit of contributions in, echoing what Michael said, you've contributed in some unique ways, but also increasingly, I think what I like is that because you've spent, it's like you spent so many years studying how they do it, that now you just come out of the gate and just kind of like people whoa, where did JD come from? He just he knows his stuff. So, well researched.
Yeah. And he's got such inflated tires.
I know. It's like a monster truck. What are you going to do?
Well, and the more I got involved, with meeting just the people behind the scenes as I started interviewing them for Audio Theater Central, the more I realized that this community, not talking about just us here as sort of the critics of the industry, but the people actually making these shows are so down to earth and personable and fun to be around. I mean, Michael knows many of them from going to the Lamplighter Guild and being involved with Lamplighter, and I know Austin has met several of them as well. And so these people that you, at least for me, I mean, I a lot of them I grew up listening to their work either as actors, and like in the case of Phil Lawler, I remember hearing him on the show as an actor, and of course his writing and Jungle Jam and Odyssey and all this stuff, and now I know them, and they're just genuine nice people, and so as I got to know the industry, I thought more people need to know about this amazing work that is being done in this space. A lot of Christians, evangelicals as a whole, like Odyssey is like the staple, like people know Odyssey, but there's some other high quality stuff that could get out to a broader audience. A lot of what radio theater has done are adaptations of classic literature. Those can have a broader reach. And, Lamplighter Theater, even though a lot of that stuff is explicitly Christian, a lot of it is just great storytelling. And so I thought, what can we do to help broaden the scope of the reach of these shows? And so that's sort of been a passion of mine, is to help bring more people, more listeners in. And then also those people who love Adventures in Odyssey, introduce them to this other stuff that's really, really great. And another aspect of that is, as I started to connect with more people in the industry, I was able to connect them with each other for different projects. For example, bringing Jared DePasquale onto Ian Boltman's radar to bring him in to work on the Brinkman Adventures. And that's just one example. And I love making those connections. And so go ahead.
Just to throw out another example, one of the actresses on Shadows and Daylight, she came on to Shadows and Daylight because she was interviewed on Audio Theater Central. And so that's Abigail Bourne, who was she was being interviewed for her involvement in the Lamplighter Guild. And we were looking for a replacement for a particular character at the time. The previous person, just life commitments, wasn't able to keep up with the role anymore. And I was listening to the episode just because ATC is great, and I was listening to it. And then I was like, her voice could totally fit this role. And so JD was able to introduce that connection and make that happen. So that's just another one of the many ways that JD is the talent broker.
The spider in the web. Oh, if you will.
Yeah.
Not comparable to the part you played on the Heart Matters one.
Yeah, no connection whatsoever. Or to Professor Moriarty.
You're the good Professor Moriarty of radio drama, JD. I've always thought of you that way.
He's the good twin of Moriarty.
That's right.
Oh, well, thank you guys for those kind words. I appreciate it. And it's like I said, I already said this, but it's a pleasure knowing all of you and having you involved. But if Michael doesn't have any more interruptions, I'm going to throw it.
I'm sorry. I know that was a long derailing, but it was so worth it, guys. We got such great content out of that. That was a good answer, JD. Good answer.
And he forgot to ask us the question. Oops.
All right. No, I'm ready. I'm ready now.
this is the behind the scenes thing that people don't know, is that like JD doesn't actually come on the show with like notes and stuff. It's just like Michael actually just like gives him a prompt or a question, and then JD just riffs the entire show, and he just cuts the part with Michael out. So.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I've actually been involved with every episode.
Giving you a peek behind the curtain here at episode 200. No, now this is a question that I've been asking all of the industry guests, and I'm going to throw it at you guys now. You guys have been backstage. You haven't heard what they've been answering, so now I'm going to throw it at you. Are you ready?
No.
Yes.
Maybe.
All right, so this is going to be a this or that, and you have to immediately answer the first thing that comes to mind. Austin, Mexican food or Italian food?
Mexican food.
Robert.
Italian.
Michael.
Oh, Mexican.
Christopher.
Mexican.
Oh, wow. Well, as I said before, there are no wrong answers. What's your favorite dish?
Chili rellenos and enchiladas.
Oh, okay.
Lasagna.
That's a personal favorite of mine, too. You, me, and Garfield. I mean, we love our lasagna. Michael, how about you?
Do carne asada fries count? Is that more American?
I'll allow it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Isn't that a Taco Bell thing?
No.
No. There's this place down the street that I'm pretty sure is run by a cartel, but they have great carne asada fries, and they're so authentic. You can taste the... Anyways, let's move on from that.
All right. How about you, Christopher?
Burritos. Used to work in a burrito place, and there's a particular way that I make them, having learned from there, that I really like.
How?
Well,
is it a secret?
No, not really. I guess the main difference is just there's a particular. It's hard to. This is almost impossible to explain in audio. There's just a particular way that it's like rolled and then like cooked on all sides of the outside.
Okay.
He's clapping his hands together for our audio listeners, and I can see it. I can see the way. Oh, I wish you guys could see this. It's amazing.
I know. Just make a burrito on the show.
And then that high in the air, Christopher?
Yeah.
Wow. And then the way you got your feet involved, that was wild. That was.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my goodness. All right. That's a Greenhorn Tales episode right there.
Forget season 2. We'll just post that.
Yeah, I love a good burrito too, and the carne asada fry. What's so funny about that?
That was a great segue. Sorry. Come in again.
That's why I'm a professional.
And not Michael.
Right. That's why I don't have a podcast. I'm going to mute myself.
But the carne asada fries, I mean, that's a thing down here in Arizona as well. I mean, a lot of these food trucks and different taco shops, taquerias, you can get those there. So honestly, I have never had them before. So maybe I'm missing out.
You are.
Okay. I'll take your word for it and I will try them.
I've never even heard of them.
Well, thank you again, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. And in the show notes, we don't have time to go through it all, but all of these guys are involved in some great projects elsewhere outside of ATC that are linked in the show notes that you'll definitely want to go check out. I want to give them some love here in the show notes. And so head over and check out what they're doing and things that they have done in the past. So thank you for coming on the show.
You are most welcome.
Thank you, JD.
Yeah, it is an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, thank you. This was a lot of fun.
And Joa, we're going to catch you next time.
400 episode.
We've sent people. They're looking for you. They will find you.
Oh, that was such a blast chatting with those guys. They are an amazing group of creatives that I am so pleased to be able to work with and to bring the content on this podcast and the website to you along with their help. So thank you to every single one of them. And just a quick correction. I said in the conversation that I met Michael at the first Get in the Show finale. That is incorrect. It was actually at the second Get in the Show finale in 2017. That is chronicled in ATC number 96. So you can hear that if you would like. And that is actually also where I met Austin in person for the first time. And so that is a fun episode that you'll want to check out if you haven't heard before. Well, this episode would not have been possible without so many people, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you to all of the industry guests in alphabetical order, starting with the ladies. We have Alicia Hansen, Katie Lee, and Kathy Sarah, followed by Dave Arnold, Todd Bastide, Jared DePasquale, John Fornoff, Aaron Fullen, Craig Hart, Glenn Haskell, Nathan Hubler, Rob Jorgensen, Darby Kern, Phil Lawler, Paul McCusker, Pat Roy, and Marshall Younger. These are some of the top professionals in this industry. This episode featured a who's who of family-friendly audio drama, and I am so grateful that they would take the time to talk with me and share a little bit about their thoughts on this medium with you. So thank you to every single one of you. Also to the ATC contributors, Roy, Andrew, Austin, Robert, Michael, Christopher, and Joa, thank you so much for your contributions to ATC and to this industry as a whole. Thank you so much. To every past guest host and interviewee who's ever appeared on the show, thank you. I appreciate you. To all of the listeners who left a voice message for this episode, Christian Manassian, Caleb Bressler, David Hilder, Jeremy Levy, Odyssey Fan, Betsy Nicholson, Jason Markiewicz, Phil Lawler, Bethany Baldwin, and Trisha Rose. Thank you so much to each of you, and to every single one of you who listens to this show. Thank you for listening. And if you've ever shared the show with a friend on social media or in a text message or in a conversation, thank you for doing that. That helps us grow this community. So please continue to do that. Share ATC with a friend. If they love audio drama, I think if they give it 2 or 3 episodes, they're going to love ATC as well. So thank you for listening and thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for 200 episodes of this show. I'm just very grateful. Well, if you would like to get in touch with us, as always, you can head over to audiotheatercentral.com/contact. All of the different ways to reach out are listed there. The show notes for this episode are at audiotheatercentral.com/200. It's still hard to imagine saying that, 200 episodes. But anyway, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening.
Hi, this is Betsy Nicholson from Elizabethton, Tennessee. Audio Theater Central is a production of Porchlight Family Media. The theme music was composed by Sam Avendano. The show is produced and edited by J.D. Sutter. Find the website at audiotheatercentral.com.
Porchlight Family Media,
your source for family-centered content.
porchlightfamilymedia.com.